Live stream, guys. Welcome to the daily live stream. Do me a favor, same rules as per usual. As you come in, say what's up, hit that like button for me. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can join the fam. I appreciate all of you guys who are stopping by. Make sure that when you are in the live stream that you please behave. Same rules as per usual. Keep your comments short, respectful, cordial, to the point. Don't flag the AI mod. Please do not disrespect any subs, any subscribers, any supporters, anyone who supports the channel. No mods. Those things will get you blocked or censored in the chat. Other than that, I strictly try to not do that to you guys because I appreciate everybody's opinion and I want you to be interactive in the chat. Happy Monday. Yeah, happy Monday, everybody. Late night Monday, news night Monday. So let's get right into it. I hope everybody is well, okay. Doing well, taking care of yourselves, taking care of your families, loving each other, and keeping yourselves healthy. It's a new year, so you don't have to bring old habits and bad thoughts from last year into the new year. So let's get right into the news. I appreciate everybody for stopping by on the corner and hanging out with me. Let's get right into it. I think I'm going to start the live stream with a Christian clip from Truth Be Told. Shout out to Truth Be Told. You guys know over here I either end or start the live stream with a Christian clip, so I'm going to start it like that tonight. What's Truth Be Told talking about? Hold on, guys. Okay, Jewish historian totally destroys the claim that Jesus was a myth. So that's where we're starting. Let's get right into it.
The more you stay home, the less you want to leave. And the more you stay, the heavier everything feels. So
most people are told, and honestly the church is pretty silent on this, they say that there's no historical proof that Jesus even existed and that the resurrection is just blind faith and that the only place that these claims appear is in the Bible. But I want to share with you right now that that is simply not true. And so I'm going to prove it to you in this short video. I'm going to share with you writings from a Jewish historian who lived during the time of Jesus and he absolutely hated Christianity. It's proof enough for the skeptics and a powerful reminder to believers that our faith is grounded in real history, not wishful thinking. So hit that like button. Help me to reach as more people with this as I can, and let's get into it.
Can I show you something else in here? This is a first English edition of Josephus, okay, from the 1600s. So in Josephus, on this page, it tells, and to cite James, the brother of Jesus, together with some other persons to appear before him and answer to a charge brought against him. So the brother of Jesus is mentioned contemporaneously.
Yes.
John the Baptist is mentioned.
This is extra biblical. This is secular.
So
Understand what he said. I just want to make sure you hear that. The book he's reading from, it's actually, that book is from the 1600s, but they're reading documentation from back in like 90 AD. Okay, really close to the time of Jesus' life. And he says right there, he talks about James, the brother of Jesus, and John the Baptist, not in the Bible, right? This is not in the scripture. This is extra biblical. That's what he means by that. Let's keep going.
this, what I'm getting ready to show you, this is Josephus, the Antiquities of the Jews, book number 18, chapter number 4, third paragraph. Look at this. This is written in 91 AD. At the same time, there appeared in Judea an extraordinary person called Jesus, if it be lawful to call him a man. He was a famous worker of miracles, a teacher of those who were desirous of receiving the truth in simplicity, and brought over to him, if it be lawful to call him a man. At the same time, there appeared in Judea an extraordinary person called Jesus, if it be lawful to call him a man. He was a famous worker.
I think it's interesting the way that they do that. An extraordinary human called Jesus, and then they say, if it be lawful to call him a man. Now, we know based on scripture, Jesus was fully God and fully man. I just think it's just so interesting the way that they word it, like the verbiage they use. They can tell that he's so different. So they also put in there, like, is it even right? Is it even lawful to call Jesus a regular man?
worker of miracles, a teacher of those who were desirous of receiving the truth in simplicity, and brought over to him many disciples, both Jews and Gentiles. This was the Christ, whom Pilate, as the accusation of the princes of the great men of the nation, delivered up to the ignominious punishment of the cross, notwithstanding which those who first loved him did not forsake him. He appeared to them alive again the third day after his crucifixion, which numbers with numberless other wonders concerning him. And thence to this day there is a set of people who bear the name of Christian, as owning him for their head, Lord, and Master.
This is a historical, documented witness that Jesus Christ was real, he was legitimate, and they bear record of me. This historical narrative from 91 AD.
Yes, sir.
This is 20 years after the fall of Jerusalem.
This man was not a Christian. He was very anti-Christian. He was very pro-Rome and pro-Sanhedrin.
From documented witness that Jesus Christ was real,
Lord, and Master.
This is a historical, documented witness that Jesus Christ was real, he was legitimate, and they bear record of me. This historical narrative from 91 AD.
Yes, sir.
This is 20 years after the fall of Jerusalem.
This man was not a Christian. He was very anti-Christian. He was very pro-Rome and pro-Sanhedrin, and admitted that.
This is profound.
So you have John the Baptist talked about in here. You have the complete account of the gospel. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4, I've preached to you the gospel, that Jesus Christ lived, he died, was buried 3 days, and rose again. This is the gospel. There's not one difference between what Paul said happened inside the text and what Luke says happened by many eyewitness accounts, and what...
Yeah, and I think this is astounding, like the way that they're putting this together. And that matters because someone might say, you know, if this person was very anti-Christian, anti-religion, but pro-Rome and pro-Sanhedrin, why does that matter? And it matters because late at night when they brought Jesus to be charged, which a trial shouldn't have been happening at night to begin with. It was in front of the Sanhedrin. The members, let's say the leaders of the Sanhedrin is where they brought him to, right? So it was very prominent Jewish leaders, very prominent religious Jewish people that actually sentenced and had Jesus killed. So I just think it's great the way that they're putting all this together.
Secular historians said happened.
If you feel like your brain craves pleasure from lust just as much as it craves being a man of integrity, it's probably no coincidence that God put this in front of you right now. What I did in the incognito tab made me feel like a hypocrite and a fraud as a husband.
She doesn't really have a criminal history.
What do you think? I mean, you have a historian who's Jewish that worked for the Romans recording these events and what happened to Jesus. Why? Because it's a big deal. You know, when you get thousands and thousands, I mean, Jesus fed 5,000 men at once, where they believed that there was probably 10 to 12,000 people with him out in an open field, and he fed them all food from nowhere. He manifested food from literally nowhere and fed 10 to 12,000 people. So you know how hard it is to feed 10 to 12,000 people even today, right? And he did this 2,000 years ago in the middle of a field. He had 12,000. Everyone was talking about this person. Everyone was talking about Jesus. Like, just because it was that far long ago in the past it should not discount the fact that this amazing miracle worker, wise teacher actually existed. And that's why Josephus wrote about him, my friends. Like, this is not blind faith. We have faith in God. We have faith in Christ. But this isn't blind faith. There is absolute evidence and references for him, which are widely accepted by scholars. And it should be. Now, the one thing I do want to share with you, though, is that with this writing, when it's talking about how he is the Christ and a lot about this resurrection language, they will say that some of this was maybe added in later. But the core part of it, that Jesus existed, that he was a known teacher, that he was crucified, and he was executed on orders of Pontius Pilate, those are without a doubt. And that his followers continued after his death. Why? Because they believed that he was still alive. after he was dead. This is the central claim of Christianity, that Jesus of Nazareth, I mean, the guy that already did all these miracles, walked on water, turned water into wine, can control storms with a word, that can cast demons out of people. He literally existed and did these miracles. And so when he rose from the dead, yeah, people were surprised, but they also weren't that surprised because he said he was going to do it. And he did it. Now, Josephus isn't the only one also that wrote about Jesus. Look at Tacitus. Look this up for yourself. He's a Roman historian. He also wrote about Jesus and about him being crucified. Not to mention the four Gospels. You can't just, act like these eyewitnesses accounts don't exist because we put them in a book called the Bible. These are historical, accurate, historical records. Now, think about it. You got all these records that are from different places that are saying the same thing. What does that mean? Jesus was crucified by Pontius Pilate. It's one of the least disputed facts of ancient history.
Yes, it is one of the most least disputed facts of ancient history, and it is very congruent amongst many different testimonies, witnesses, writings. So I just think they did a great job, just showing the congruence of this, with scripture compared to what we see historically. And I think that it's good for people who have a very abstract mind, who are kind of I don't believe in fairy tales, and make believe. I need to know, is there any historical facts or data or anything like that that's tangible, that's connected to this. So I think they did a really good job here with this.
And what's so amazing about this, my friends, what I will never stop talking about, is that this event was absolutely prophesied and spoken about 700 years before Jesus was even born. Let me share this with you. I love this in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 5 and 6. It says that Jesus, he was pierced for our transgressions. Well, it says he, it doesn't say Jesus, but this is who we're talking about. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was a chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. We've all gone astray like sheep. We've all turned away, every one of us. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He came to live, to point the path to eternal life through his words and his love and his actions. He fulfilled the law of Moses, and then he ultimately came to take up the punishment that we deserve. He was crushed for us, for me, and for you. He did not just die, just to die. He did it so that the sin that me and you committed against God will be laid upon him so we can be forgiven. This is not just some religious language, my friend. This is really what happened. And in Mark chapter 15, verse 24 through 39, it details, plus Luke and Matthew, and John talks about this crucifixion. It says they crucified him. They crucified Jesus.
When your kid is hurting and there's nothing you can do about it.
It's amazing. And so stick with me because I want to share with you just real quick something that you've probably never heard before that I believe that we need to talk about. Because Jesus, first off, he didn't just die as a tragic martyr. He laid his life down willingly. See, God did send Jesus to die for us, but Jesus had a command from the Father that he would do it on his own accord, that no one would take his life. Just look at your screen there. It says in John chapter 10, verse 17 and 18, for this reason, by the way, this is Jesus talking. This is Jesus' own words. The Father loves me because I lay down my life that I may take it up again. No one takes from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and I have authority to take it up again. This charge I have received from my Father. He gave it willingly because he loves you, because he knew the only path to eternal life was going to be through this sacrifice on the cross to break the power of sin and the punishment from sin from our life. 2 Corinthians.
Amen. Shout out to Jeremiah. You guys can go over the Truth Be Told. That's the name of his channel. Here's a channel favorite. So we react to / watch Jeremiah pretty often over here. Go over to Truth Be Told and check out his channel. He has great clips, great Bible studies over there, short form videos. He has it all over there. So go check out his channel when you guys get a chance. All right. So we're going to move to the next clip. Oh, let me just pull it up right here, guys. Where I want to to start at? What do I want to start at? Yeah. I want to go down. You said reckless is boring.
Since we started using it, our home.
Reese is better. Reese boy.
All right, I'll start down here. DHS to surge 1,000 more agents to Indianapolis. All right, shout out to CNN, even though it's not our favorite to watch. We got 1,000 more ICE troops or ICE agents being deployed into Minneapolis and sending people to an absolute outrage. Mayor Fry's losing it. The Attorney General is making announcements. It turns out that Minnesota is going to end up suing the Trump administration for federal invasion. So, yeah, it's a lot going on. So, let's take a look at this clip.
At the Twin Cities, now we know that it's going...
Just in, CNN has learned that about 1,000 additional Customs and Border Protection agents are set to deploy to Minneapolis. That is according to 2 federal law enforcement sources. An ICE agent there shot and killed Renee Good just last week. Let's get to CNN's Whitney Wild for the very latest on all this. In this additional deployment, Whitney, what are you learning?
Well, this is a massive increase, John, because this was already the largest immigration action to date with 2,000 agents spread throughout the Twin Cities. Now we know that it's going to be a 50% increase, 3,000 agents spread throughout that area. This is according to 2 sources. According to CNN's Priscilla Alvarez, Customs and Border Protection Commander Gregory Bovino had already been on the ground. He is going to be part of this operation. He is a well-known figure. He led operations in Chicago, New Orleans, and Charlotte. One of the sources telling Priscilla that he is going to be conducting targeted operations, which include door knocks. And in those situations, the documents that are provided to those targets will include administrative warrants, which are signed by an immigration officer but do not carry the same legal weight as a judicial warrant, or they will be copies of final orders of removal. John, as you mentioned, this all comes on the heels of an ICE officer shooting and killing Renee Nicole Good. Leaders in Minneapolis and leaders at the White House have 2 completely different ideas about what happened. The White House continuing to defend that officer, saying that he feared for his life, that she attempted or did run him over, saying that this was an act of domestic terrorism. Kristi Noem doubled down on those comments in an interview with Jake Tapper on Sunday. Minneapolis leaders say that could not be further from the truth. She posed no risk to that officer, that this was a completely unjustified shooting, and they are calling for more local involvement in a federal investigation, which at this point is being led exclusively by the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis. New over the weekend, John, Democratic lawmakers attempted to enter an ICE facility. They were before being escorted out. On Thursday of last week, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem had changed the policy about allowing unannounced visits by lawmakers, saying that they need at least a week's notice. And John, the reason for that, she said, was that it's too difficult to move around the staffing that is required for an unannounced visit. Basically saying when you have these lawmakers who just show up, that means that they have to take agents off of other important tasks and instead escort them inside these buildings. So now saying no more unannounced visits. Instead, they want at least a week's notice, John.
All right, so just some of the new developments there. Whitney, we know you're keeping your eye on it. Thank you very, very much. Kate?
Let's talk about these new developments with someone who knows everything about them. Joining us right now is the former acting director of ICE, John Sandwick. It's great to see you again, John. So first, on the hundreds of more officers that are now being sent into Minnesota to back up ICE agents while they continue operations, what do you think that will do to the situation?
Okay, I think it has a real risk of inflaming the situation. We really need to de-escalate things in Minneapolis right now. The state and locals have indicated they do not want this extensive presence, right, of immigration enforcement agents in the city. This doesn't mean, so I think what I'd like to see is we reduce the visibility of the deployment here. This doesn't mean we have to say we're abandoning immigration enforcement. I think some people have tried to characterize it as either you have...
So as the former acting director, I think he makes a good point here, because the first thing he says is he doesn't say that we need to abolish ICE or we need to get rid of ICE and not have them there. He just says that he feels like we need to de-escalate. So I'm hoping that he's not going to go into completely abandoning ship, it doesn't sound like he will. But he's just saying maybe lessening the presence in the sense where they're not so much in the public square arresting people and dragging people out of their vehicles, and maybe, you know, for like a week or a couple of days they're a little bit more hidden, and then maybe you like you slowly release the presence of them back into the community. But the fact that he's the former acting director of ICE, I love the fact that he goes straight to de-escalation. We really haven't heard Tom Homan use that word much. We know Tom Homan's been very transparent in saying he's going to go hard and he's not going to stop unless the president tells him to stop. So
have these mass deployments where you have no immigration enforcement at all. We know that's not true. ICE has arrested millions of people since its inception without these images that we're seeing now. But by doubling down and redeploying, we're sending the opposite message that we do not care what the state and locals think. It's going to trigger more, and it's also just going to inflame the passions of these protesters. And Kate, very quickly, what also concerns me is where we're getting these agents from. These are Border Patrol agents, primarily. That they're just not trained or experienced in doing operations, and they're trained for the border itself. So the nature and the experience level of these officers themselves, that concerns me as well.
It's really an interesting, important point. What do you think of the change in policy John was just talking about with Whitney Wild that the Homeland Security Secretary just put in place? No more unannounced visits. They cannot accommodate unannounced visits by lawmakers to ICE facilities. They now need a week's notice, saying that they just can't accommodate it. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, listen, it's disruptive when a member of Congress drops in on a facility. I appreciate and understand that. But I think what this goes back to a larger point, which is the administration, especially at DHS and within ICE, has really eliminated a lot of that accountability and oversight of the agency. They've diminished the funding of and basically effectively neutralized the internal detention ombudsman at ICE. They've eliminated or completely, cut back on the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office. And there's obviously been, across the federal government, restrictions on inspectors generals. When you're at an agency like this, all of those means of oversight really do help ensure that you're trying to do, trying to do things the right way. And so while unannounced congressional visits, and that is something that Congress themselves put into appropriations bills demanding that right, while they are frustrating, while they can be inconvenient, the point is that they are unannounced, that a congressman can drop in at any time and see exactly what is going on inside a detention facility and make determinations about whether or not, ICE is doing its absolute best to provide for the care and custody of the detainees. So I appreciate and understand the department's position. That said, I do think these kind of things are just helpful in keeping everybody, held accountable.
Yeah, and especially when you've got the local, the state investigative agencies saying they've been boxed out in the investigation into what happened with the fatal shooting of Renee Good. The FBI saying they didn't really kind of trust that this joint investigation could be conducted. There's a lot of distrust and a lot of question of what can be trusted. To that point, I wanted to ask you, the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, was on CNN yesterday with Jake Tapper, and during the conversation, she said that the officer's life in that encounter was threatened and warranted a lethal response. But then said essentially it's apples to oranges when comparing alleged violence against an officer in Minnesota to the convicted violence against officers that happened during January 6th. Here's just a piece of the back and forth with Jake.
Every single one of these investigations comes in the full context of the situation on the ground. And that's one thing that President Trump has been so focused on, is making sure that when we're out there, we don't pick and choose which situations are and which laws are enforced and which ones aren't.
I just showed you video of people attacking law enforcement officers. Undisputed proof, undisputed evidence. And I just said President Trump pardoned all of them. And you said that President Trump is enforcing all the laws equally. It's just not true. There's a different standard for law enforcement officials being attacked if they're being attacked by Trump supporters.
John, what do you see here? What do you think of her reaction?
Kate, I think we're having a growing credibility gap at ICE and DHS, right? We're sitting here, it just begins even with who we're arresting. The administration repeatedly says we're arresting only the worst of the worst. The data suggests strongly differently. Here we have, before the facts are in, we've made rushed conclusions that this was a proper shooting, everything was followed, despite every available protocol saying you wait for an investigation to be completed. So how do you then have any credibility in the outcome of that investigation whenever whatever results are done, when the secretary herself has repeatedly concluded that without a doubt this is was a valid, justifiable shooting? I guess my point, Kate, is that this is the kind of thing that impairs the ability of ICE to do its job. And this isn't just a partisan thing, and that's part of what concerns me, is we've really made ICE more of a political football. Immigration enforcement is always political, but it's about which side are you on. And the problem is ICE is there to defend the entire United States of America. There's a way of doing this without making it so partisan that allows for more effective law enforcement protecting all of us.
Yeah, it's always important to have your perspective and your eloquence always on these very sensitive issues. John, thank you so much.
Why are you paying $80 for garbage internet?
Have you heard about Ryoko Pro? This is the cutting-edge portable Wi-Fi.
Joining us here on Fox 9 and Fox Local, I'm Randy Meyer.
And I'm Kelsey Carlson. We're staying on top of everything surrounding the death of Renee Good and the larger federal enforcement presence in the Twin Cities. Today, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and the mayors of St. Paul and
So Keith Ellison's going to talk a little bit about why Minnesota's pursuing a lawsuit against the Trump administration. Of course, that has something to do with the American citizen that was shot, but also they're starting to call it a federal invasion, which I thought was very interesting. So let's take a listen.
Minneapolis spoke on, quote, DHS's future in Minnesota.
Specifically, they're suing Homeland Security, ICE, and Border Patrol. Fox 9's Mary McGuire was there and joins us now live. Mary, take us through that announcement. What is the AG and by proxy the two mayors alleging in this lawsuit?
Well, Randy and Kelsey, this lawsuit alleges that the federal government is violating the Constitution with this surge of federal agents here in the state of Minnesota, carrying out what they call dangerous and illegal stops and raids. City officials even going so far as to call this, what's happening in the state of Minnesota, a federal invasion. Now, that lawsuit filed today in federal court accuses the Trump administration of targeting the state of Minnesota under the guise of fighting reported widespread fraud in the state, calling it instead a way to punish political opponents in blue states. Attorney General Keith Ellison says the number of ICE agents in the Twin Cities reported to now be around 3,000, greatly outnumbers the number of police officers, which both have about 600 sworn officers in each Minneapolis and St. Paul. This lawsuit alleges the enforcement activities are having an impact on everything from businesses to schools and calls for federal agents to stop using what they call excessive force, to stop wearing masks during these raids, and to stop and demands that agents also wear body-worn cameras. Officials made it clear they are not trying to block immigration enforcement altogether. They are just trying to stop what they call unlawful federal enforcement.
Trump's administration's decision.
That's what I'm saying, but they don't have the right to decide if it's unlawful federal enforcement. And that's what I didn't like them being at the school and just seeing them kind of like throw, the tear gas and things like that, like at the students. But I get at this point the students are, kind of trying to intercept ICE and like stop them from their mission. So that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing. But I hated to see them throwing it like at minors like that, knowing that the person went into a school zone. So now if they're throwing, that irritant, they're throwing it basically at minors.
To target Minnesota and Twin Cities is motivated by a desire to retaliate against Trump's perceived political opponents, who are the people of the state of Minnesota and Twin Cities, rather than any good faith concerns about immigration enforcement, public safety, or law enforcement.
What we are seeing right now is not normal immigration enforcement. We are not asking ICE not to do ICE things. We are asking this federal government to stop the unconstitutional conduct that is invading our streets each and every day.
In addition to this lawsuit, they also filed a temporary restraining order asking a judge to immediately stop this surge of federal agents here in the state of Minnesota. City officials even saying that this is causing a huge strain on local police resources, causing millions of dollars in overtime with officers responding to 911 calls. And we did reach out to the Department of Homeland Security for their take on this lawsuit. A spokesperson tells us in part that if politicians in Minnesota had worked with the federal government to do things like root out fraud and to get criminals off the street, they wouldn't be having this conversation. in the first place. Reporting live tonight, Mary McGuire, Fox 9.
All right, Mary, thank you. The ICE surge has had a significant impact on many small businesses. Already last month, we saw, for example, Cedar Riverside shopping areas were pretty vacant.
And then from that, what we can see that's happening again right now at Hispanic-owned shops in Minneapolis. Fox 9's Corin Hoggard is live there, and so Corin, Central Avenue is a lot quieter than it normally would be.
Yeah, Kelsey and Randy, there are a lot of Latin businesses in this part of Minneapolis, and almost all of them have shut their doors, at least for today. And we saw scenes like this in similar neighborhoods across the metro, on Lake Street and District del Sol in St. Paul. And, you know, that lawsuit that the state filed says that these businesses, the customer-facing businesses, have lost 50 to 80% of their revenue.
Whistle-wearing ICE watchers outnumbered regular pedestrians on Central Avenue Monday as we found doors locked at business after business. ICE agents patrolled the area, but foot traffic was almost non-existent. The empty streets repeated in St. Paul's District del Sol, where popular places like El Burrito Mercado and Boca Chica locked up.
I'm dashing with the doors closed.
In a small Lake Street mall, barely any customers wandered the corridors.
It's terrible. The business is terrible.
One business owner was too scared to show his face, but he agreed to tell us how the ICE surge is crushing him financially. He says he's legal, so he shows up every day, but customers are staying home, which means he's going to struggle to make rent for his store and his home.
I think it went long for January, and then we see what happened. Yeah, and then we need to make an option.
He says ICE makes him feel unwelcome in this country, but he loves Minnesota and the people trying to keep up his spirits and his revenues.
Thank you for the community, American. They come in and support to the business because Latin people, they can go outside.
I swear by God to...
And it's like, this is not just the Latin community, but I think what they're doing is like they're playing the spill off for us, because while we're seeing the Somali community basically being terrorized by ICE, which is what some people are calling it, the Latin community is watching that and they're just like, dude, we're not gonna go outside. We don't want to be next. They were already fearful before Trump even started, this administration even started targeting, you know, the Somali people in America. So I could understand why, you know, their businesses are closed and businesses are slowing down for the Hispanic community, because they don't want to come outside.
Gideon shampoo will make you grow new hair in 2 weeks. If no new hair grows, we will compensate.
And most of the businesses that are closed today, including this restaurant here behind me, are intending to reopen tomorrow, but they say they're going to keep an eye on this situation and decide tomorrow for sure that they'd open their doors. Latin Minneapolis, Corin Hoggard, Fox 9.
All right, thank you, Corin. Students across the metro walking out of class in protest of ICE activity in Minnesota.
This was Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. Students there walking out of class at 2 p.m. in a peaceful protest. You may remember that this is the same school where ICE agents clashed with students just hours after Wednesday's deadly shooting.
Meantime, over in Maple Grove, students walked out by the dozen gathering in front of the high school to protest ICE in our area. A letter from the school saying the demonstration is meant to express the students' concerns, as is their First Amendment right.
You have all heard of and seen videos of the violence inflicted by ICE in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, and in our entire nation. You have all heard the hateful and deceitful messages from our current administration. And you have all made the decision to use your political voice by walking out of school today in protest to the violence and hate. That is so incredibly powerful.
Just days after the ICE shooting in Minneapolis, agents and activists and vehicles continue to clash as well.
And new videos over the weekend show the tense moments between some members of the public and ICE agents. Fox 9's Mike Manzoni joining us from our newsroom. And Mike, in one of these videos, you can hear an ICE agent talk about how people can be killed in these tense situations. Tell us what you're seeing.
And Kelsey and Randy, that happened yesterday in a neighborhood in Shakopee. It all started after the driver apparently followed those ICE agents. We've reached out to ICE to find out more about the these interactions. In another video, an agent asks the driver in Minneapolis if he's learned anything from the recent shooting. The agent accused that driver of following ICE, and on Friday, another agent asked a similar question to a driver before grabbing her phone. That driver stopped after seeing an accident involving another car and an ICE vehicle.
This is your warning.
For what?
Stop following us. You are impeding operations. This is the United States federal government.
Over here. I gotta get to my house.
This is your warning. I guarantee you're not gonna like the outcome. Go home to your children. It's Sunday.
Yeah, go exactly. Let people go to
You
church.
did not learn from what just happened. Go home to your kids.
Shame on you.
Listen, have y'all not learned from the past couple of days? Have you not learned?
Learned what? What's our lesson here? What do you want us to learn?
Following federal agents.
Give me my phone back.
And again, we've reached out to ICE for comment, but have not heard back. In the news.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I mean, I get it. Some of you are probably going to be like, well, you know, she had it in his face. But I mean, I still feel like he was kind of out of line to do that. Like, people are entitled to record. But they just keep saying, have you not learned your lesson? Have you not? So you can see that they're getting pissed off because they're like, what lesson are we supposed to take from this?
This is from Mike Benzoni, Fox 9.
All right, thank you, Mike. The memorial for Renee Good remains at the corner of 34th and Portland.
It's been a hot spot for those wanting to pay their respects. Today, Governor Walz visited, taking in the memorial and stopping to talk with others there as well. The governor was there for about 5 minutes or so before then heading out.
And at the Whipple building, things weren't as active today. Our cameras did catch, though, some fencing being put up near the vehicle gate, and some protesters were there with signs. Some of the demonstrators were reportedly throwing snowballs at cars entering the facility, and federal agents used pepper balls and flashbangs to break up a crowd there. Fox 9's crew was not able to capture the reported activities on camera, though. With so much going on regarding the death of Renee Good and the continued ICE enforcement across the Twin Cities, stay with Fox 9, our Fox Local app, or our website, fox9.com, for every development and to stay up to date.
More to come here at 6. Federal fraud charges now resulting in 2 more healthcare businesses losing their licenses.
Also, we're going to hear from the CEO of Sun Country Airlines after news that the airline would be merging with Allegiant. See why he says turning 2 airlines into one will not bring up costs for the...
All right, so next clip we're going to go to is Ilhan Omar actually talking about why it's not acceptable for Trump to make early judgment on the ICE shooting. I thought it was interesting that we have Ilhan Omar chiming in on this, so let's take a listen.
Whether you have money or not, I recommend you buy this. This telescopic clothes rack was a gift from my brother-in-law.
We're joined now by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who represents a large portion of that city. It's good to have you here.
I represent the whole city.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. The Trump administration is actively telling the public that journalists are misleading them. You heard what was just reported from the scene. What we know is that Renee Macklin Good and her partner were protesters. They were driving around Minneapolis. They were recording what some of these ICE enforcement officers were doing. And the local police chief says Macklin Good blocked the street with her car. President Trump has said that the partner was a paid agitator. That's the phrase he used. Secretary Noem alleged this was an act of terrorism. Given how much heat there is and the administration's scrutiny, would you tell Americans it's too dangerous to demonstrate and to go out and document as she was doing?
I think it is really important for Americans to record, to create the level of accountability and transparency that we need. What we have seen in Minneapolis is ICE agents oftentimes jumping out of their cars. These are unmarked cars. Oftentimes they're wearing a mask. They're approaching, running towards cars. They're pulling people out of those cars. Oftentimes, these people are citizens. Oftentimes, these people have documentation of their legal right to be in this country. And we know that DHS has lied repeatedly when it comes to these accounts. So it is even more important for there to be recording from eyewitnesses every single time these actions are taking place.
But do you see from the recordings that we see, is there anything that you believe was being done that should not have been done by Macklin Good? The administration says she was blocking the road. They are claiming this is an act of terrorism.
Yeah, Renee Nicole Good, as you hear her say, she's not mad. She's sitting in her car, peacefully waving cars to get by. This agent, as you see, gets out of his car, automatically starts running towards her, trying to open her door. She feels scared. She tries to turn the wheel away. And then you see the other officer, who can clearly see the car is moving, move towards the front of the car, which, if they are saying that he has 10 years on service and is trained, he should know that you shouldn't be trying to get in front of a moving car. And so it is not acceptable for Kristi Noem and the president and the vice president to make these kind of judgments without there being a full investigation, even though we can see in the videos that have been produced so far that what they are describing is really not what is taking place. And so if they're saying that we shouldn't believe our eyes, then let the investigation take place before you characterize this mother of three as a domestic terrorist. Prove to us what documentation.
Now, that's the same thing Tom Homan said, but some people were saying, yeah, but to whose side is Tom Homan on? Is he on the side of the ICE officer, or is he on the side of the person who got shot, right? I would say when Tom Homan was saying it, he was saying it in regards to his ICE agent, like, let's let the investigation play out and see what they come back with. Ilhan Omar right now in this instinct is talking more about the victim.
You have that one, that she was paid, two, that she was agitating when we can hear her say she's not mad, she's not upset. She's clearly trying to wave cars to bypass her. And so it's just this level of rhetoric is unjustifiable to the American people.
Just quickly on that, you said accountability, and it's important for people to document what's happening. I just want to be abundantly clear, because the administration says that their officers are being stalked and harassed. When you say accountability, you are only describing recording like she was doing?
Yeah, I think it is fair for citizens to document what law enforcement is doing in their communities.
Yes, agents as well.
Well, there's also been violence against residents in Minneapolis.
There right now is a lot of heat on your state. Treasury Secretary Bessent called Minnesota ground zero for what may be the most egregious welfare scam in our nation's history to date. 85 of the 98 people who were charged by the Justice Department with this welfare scheme are Somali. And you know this. The Treasury Secretary is probing whether any of the money was somehow funneled outside the country. He actually issued new standards. He's going to make it make someone disclose if they receive public assistance when they try to wire money out of the country, and he's lowered the bar for suspicious activity. What is the practical impact of doing that in the community?
It's just creating fear. What they are doing is creating confusion, chaos, trying to intimidate people from being able to exercise their regular, normal activities that they would. There is no justification.
See, and then some people listening to this, they're saying things like they don't like the type of rhetoric that she's pushing, and she's trying to make everyone seem like a victim. But, you know, we also have to remember that the Somalis are having their own lived experience here in the United States right now while this is happening. That's very different from, you know, a group of people or a race that's not particularly targeted right now. So I know, like Ilhan Omar, she's trying to just speak up for those who are afraid. I just think right message, wrong messenger.
In any of the things that they say, the 87 people that you've described as being investigated, many of them adjudicated, all happened under the Biden administration. There is no justification for this search. We know that ICE has the ability to conduct raids. There is no reason to have over 2,000 people coming in to our city and creating the level of terror that they have created.
Well, the administration argues that they have to do it because the state failed to, right?
The federal government and the state have been working peacefully together and have brought justice to these 87 people that you've described. None of the search that they have conducted has produced any sort of criminal activity. They haven't been able to charge anyone as of yet.
Well, the administration also announced they're going to cut food stamps to Minnesota because they say some of the food stamp money had been embezzled.
And those are the things that are being litigated, and it is again unconstitutional for them to do so.
Are you confident that the fraud that has been discovered is no longer being conducted now? Is there any justification for saying this food stamp money is somehow being misused?
Yeah, there are ways to investigate fraud, which we have been doing in Minnesota, which the federal government has been doing under the Biden administration. There is no reason for them to use this level of rhetoric. There is no reason for them to fully stop funding these programs. The only reason.
Now, we know she's not going to be 100% honest about things like this. There's no way they were searching for that in the Biden administration, and then we're finding all the fraud we're finding right now there. So we know that just isn't the truth.
And they are doing that is for PR purposes, and it is harming our state. It is harming my constituents, and it is creating the kind of chaos and confusion that no one needs in this moment.
Because the administration and many conservative allies of the administration argue that this is still ongoing. There was that conservative influencer who went out and posted this video that went viral alleging that daycare facilities were pocketing public funds.
Yeah, and as you know, he went hours where these businesses were not operating.
Yeah, CBS went out and did a
again creates the level of confusion and chaos that is not necessary in a moment when we are trying to deal with a serious problem that needs serious people to be able to address it.
But do you think there was no recorded evidence of fraud according to the CBS investigation that was conducted? But Governor Walz did choose to not run for re-election. He dropped out of the race because of all of this.
Because he wants to focus on defending our state and not defending a seat.
Do you think there has been a sufficient level of accountability and ownership of the failure to have oversight here? Do you think this ends?
That is what we want. We want to collaboratively work with the administration to try to make sure that there is no fraud that's being perpetuated on our state. What we do not want is the level of terror, of confusion, of chaos that is being created without any results in this moment.
Very quickly, before I let you go, the Chair Oversight Committee said that he wants to refer you to the Ethics Committee.
I've been referred like 100 times, so
he's
go ahead.
At your husband's income and net worth. He said it was tied to private equity investment funds, but he seems to be insinuating that you personally are tied into this welfare scam.
Ever since I've gotten to Congress, they have been doing these sort of weird ethics investigations. None of them have yielded anything because I have been as transparent as I can be, and there is nothing wrong with any documentation that I have ever provided to the federal government.
Congresswoman.
So why do people think she's married to her brother? You guys know that, chat? Because everyone's like, Ilhan Omar married her brother. I'm just I've done some research on this. I'll tell you what I found is questionable, but what do you guys think about that when she says there's nothing wrong with any documentation I've ever given to the federal government? And then we see in the Senate Nancy Mace asking the question, do you think if a person marries their brother that they should still be able to remain an American citizen? I just think that that's interesting. Let's keep going to the next clip.
Do not take another meeting until you've tried this. Pocket is the world's first AI thought companion.
And more than 1/3 of kindergarten. Younger generations are falling behind as reading declines. According to a survey last year, Gen Z read fewer books than any generation. And more.
I'm gonna tell you guys right now, this news clip right here, this thing like just boggled my mind. Like the amount of information that Gen Z is missing and Gen Alpha will be missing. I'm just thinking to myself, my God, what is happening? Just listen to this.
Younger generations are falling behind as reading declines. According to a survey last year, Gen Z read fewer books than any generation. And more than 1/3 of kindergarten through 12th grade students said they dislike reading.
A Pepperdine University professor told Fortune, quote, "It's not even an inability to critically think. It's an inability to read sentences. I feel like I'm tap dancing and having to read things aloud because there's no way that anyone read the night before."
Here with her take is Brooke Uden, co-founder of Enriched Literacy Education. Brooke, what is going on? This is terrible news.
You know, it really starts in the earliest ages, and we're seeing studies of children as early as primary school age that are unable to perform basic skills because I believe they're not being read to, they're not being spoken to in the home. Their communication skills are so much lower than children of that age, you know, even just 10, 20 years ago. When you came
10, 20 years ago. I'm thinking to myself, wow, so parents don't read their children bedtime stories anymore. They don't read their children books anymore. Like, they just give them the iPad now. This was insane to me. Like, listening to this, me and my wife were both like, I cannot believe what we're hearing right now. Thinking about the amount of reading we had to achieve to get out of elementary school, junior high school, college. Like, this is insane what they're even saying about Gen Z. And I know it's going to apply to the younger generation as well.
A study reports, you know, 600 teachers were interviewed, and they said the children don't know their names, how to use the bathroom independently, how to brush their teeth, which is really terrible. Fast forward, we have Los Angeles Unified School District, second largest school district in the United States. We have parents there saying their children are on iPads all day. One mom reports her 6-year-old wet himself at the table 4 times. He's otherwise neurotypical, does not have an issue with toileting because he was on an iPad and lost track of time and was overstimulated. So if we're replacing human interaction and reading with iPads, people aren't going to like reading. iPads are a lot more intrinsically interesting to the brain. The dopamine is lighting up. Yeah. It's exciting. Reading takes work.
You know, it's so interesting, and we've spent so much time talking about how that engagement with an iPad.
Yeah, reading takes work, and depending on what generation you come from, reading still excites you. But again, depending on what generation you come from, it doesn't. And I think this is hilarious because regardless of what I read on the iPad, every now and then I'll tell my wife, like, you know, I want to read a good book. Like, I just miss reading a good book where I could like dog ear a page. And like, I know everyone's not going to understand that, but it's just something about reading a book, turning the pages, being able to dog ear a page, picking up a book. It's very nostalgic for me. That's the era in which I grew up in. I feel really sad for this generation. Like, a 6-year-old boy that is normally neurotypical, meaning like he doesn't have any neurological challenges on a day-to-day basis, pees on himself 4 different times while sitting in one spot because he's overstimulated by his iPad. I mean, what's going on? The parents don't know how to say, okay, you've been on there for 4 hours, it's time to take a break. Like, dude, this is literally insane that they're not reading books. They're not reading. That's just, like, the fact that I'm even listening to a news clip that's talking about children in the United States not reading is insane.
iPhone or an iPad kind of scatters the brain and causes anxiety and things like that. But what we don't spend enough time talking about is the importance of sort of the other end of the spectrum, which is the devotion of the mind to a book or to something you're reading and learning to read, and how that...
Now he hits on a really good point, but look at that headline. High school students have the worst reading skills. Is that what it says? Hold on. Yeah. High school seniors have the worst reading skills since 1992. That is insane. 90, okay. Like in 1992, dude, I was like first, second grade. That's crazy. They have the worst reading skills since I was like in the second grade. That's why I'm just like, this is literally an insane thing for me to watch right now. I don't know about you guys, but those of you guys that still understand, like, or remember SATs, ACTs, like, those of you who are from large cities like New York and New Jersey that still remember standardized math and reading tests like Regents, where you had to score within the state and then within your school and a certain percentile. It's like, dude, it's scary to hear some of this stuff. Like, I'm like, so how are you graduating if you're struggling with reading that much? That means that the school curriculum is dropped disgustingly drastic, because they have to not care enough to be like, okay, you know, even though you can't do this, it still doesn't matter. We're going to push you through. And it has to be a collective agreement for this many Gen Zers to have graduated and be struggling with reading.
That actually calms the mind and focuses the mind. Motion of the mind to a book or to something you're reading and learning to read, and how that actually calms the mind and focuses the mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of research out there about even, the very...
Yeah, he talks about devotion to reading a book and how it calms the mind and focuses the mind. And that's very true. I remember whenever I was reading in high school, at some point when I was in probably, I think it was around 9th or 10th grade. This is high school at this point for me, where I went from college prep reading classes to honors reading classes to AP English. And when you go this route, you typically get to read things that are above like your reading level or what you would read in that grade. So I remember being like in the 9th or 10th grade and reading Catcher in the Rye, and struggling with it at first because just it being like a very weird storyline to me at first. It's crazy being the age I am right now and looking back at Catcher in the Rye and understanding the storyline. Yeah, same thing with Romeo and Juliet. Well, Romeo and Juliet was a little bit easier than Macbeth. But it just depends, right? To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, these are just like typical books that I read in school that, like, when I bring these type of books up to like Gen Zers that work with me, they don't even know what the book is. Like, if I ask them, like, hey, have you ever read To Kill a Mockingbird? They're like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, Catcher in the Rye, have never heard of it. Angela's Ashes. These are all books that, like, just in high school and in junior high school, I encountered and I had to, like, read and do some type of book report and or presentation on. So it's just, I mean, man, my mind is blown listening to this, and just like the fact that there's a teacher saying they can't read a full sentence. I'm just like, what is happening?
Very littlest age, when we respond to our babies make a noise and we respond. That's called serve and return.
Motion of the mind to a book or to something you're reading and learning to read, and how that actually calms the mind and focuses the mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of research out there about even, the very littlest age, when we respond to our babies make a noise and we respond. That's called serve and return. That is how they develop language. And, it's interesting because going back to LAUSD, their argument for bringing technology into the classroom was this is going to level the field from a socioeconomic perspective, because children that are in underserved communities need to be tech literate. Well, actually, the research shows it has very little to do with your means in terms of the quality of the language development in your home. It has to do with how much you interact and talk to and read to your child. And now we're looking at, the New York Times this fall came out with an article, 1/3 of our high school seniors are not ready for college. They are not on a basic reading level.
Wow.
Yeah,
1/3 of our high school seniors.
It's fascinating. These tech oligarchs convinced all of the schools and the government to put these devices into the school, these iPads, and then they send their own kids to Waldorf schools with like wooden toys. It's fascinating to me, and also the fact that a lot of moms aren't reading to their children. So that's a big deal. Thank you, Brooke. It's a very important topic.
Thank you, Brooke. I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to...
I'm not gonna lie, we gotta change something very quick in America. That's crazy. Me and my wife sat here and we're like, what is actually... like, this is literally insane to us. Especially because we're both avid readers. We both love reading. We both love studying. You know, we both love researching. So it's kind of crazy to just listen to this. And it's insane to just listen to how like 35% don't like to read, and like Gen Z's reading like almost 7 books less if I go all the way back to like baby boomers, and then maybe like what was it, 4 books less than like millennials. That's just an insane number. I really hope something changes there soon. But for those of you guys that work around Gen Z, you know, I'm sure at this point you've been able to already see and test and prove that this is true. I've seen it at work. I work very closely with a couple of people that work closer to some of the Gen Zers that we work with than I do, and they will say things like that. They'll say things like they can't read. They don't understand this. They act like they understand this, but then, you know, you can tell based on their actions, and I'm just like, wow, that. So yeah, now understanding that they don't like to read, it makes perfect sense why they would be struggling in the lab. It makes perfect sense. All right, guys, let's jump to the next clip.
My wife gave me these translation earbuds before our summer trip to Italy. First, I laughed at her. We have Google Translate.
Again, for Croatia's steadfast.
The NATO chief is asked, will an alliance survive Trump's threat on Greenland? Let's take a listen.
Support to our alliance and everything we collectively stand for. Thank you.
Zahvaljujem na uvodnim izlaganjima glavnom tajniku NATO, gospodinu Rutovu, premijeru Plenkoviću. Slijedi predviđeno vrijeme za novinarska pitanja. Uvažavajući naravno naš veliki interes, ograničeni smo vremenom koje nam je na raspolaganju. Imamo vremena za nekoliko pitanja, ovo krenut ćemo sa Jasmina Kuzmanović.
Hello, I have a question for Secretary General. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, a group of European countries led by the UK and Germany are apparently planning to increase, actually to have some military presence on the Arctic, on Greenland. Could you tell us more about these plans? Would it be like the Baltic Sentry of the last year initiative, or how would it look, and how far the plans have gone? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. And let me first of all stress that all allies agree on the importance of the Arctic and Arctic security, because we know that with sea lanes opening up, there is a risk that the Russians and the Chinese will be more active. And as you know, there are 8 Arctic countries, 7 are within NATO, including the United States and Canada, and 5 countries in Europe, including Denmark through Greenland and Iceland and Norway, Finland and Sweden. And there is 1 Arctic country outside NATO, and that is Russia. But you could also argue that by now China has almost become a sort of Arctic country, not geographically, but at least by the sheer amount of their activities and interests in the region. So that has led last year already to some debates, very successful concluded debates in NATO on how as an alliance, together with our 7 Arctic allies, we have to work together to make sure that the Arctic stays safe. And currently we are discussing the next step to that, how to make sure that we give practical follow-up on those discussions to make sure that as an alliance we do everything collectively and through our individual allies to make sure that the Arctic stays safe, as we all agree that that has to be a priority.
Hi.
Hi.
Also a question for you, Secretary General. My name is Anabela Lajko from the Croatian Radio. You have repeatedly stated that Russia is the main threat to NATO and to Europe. Of course, understandably. We all understand why. What is your comment, approximation on latest statements from Donald Trump,
who said that if necessary he will take military action on Greenland. And I'm just going to read it. Commissioner Kubilius from European Commission has said that EU members are obliged to come to Denmark's assistance under EU treaty if faced with military aggression. And as we know, 23 countries of EU are also members of NATO. Gospodine Plenković, including Croatia, yes. Gospodine Plenković, ovo isto vaš komentar, molim na to. Hvala.
Yes, well, on that question, and it's a little bit, I think, repeating my previous reaction, but thank you very much for that important question. And I think what is at core here, and to the core of this question is that we all make that same analysis, and there is no debate or discussion about that. The analysis is sound and is there that when it comes to the High North, the Arctic region, I was myself visiting Iceland only, I think, 6 or 8 weeks ago, and we also extensively discussed this, and I was in Norway and visiting all the allies, discussing with the US and with Canada. I was with Prime Minister Carney last week in Paris, discussing the importance of the Arctic. So, collectively, as an alliance, and particularly, of course, the 7 countries who are bordering on the region, we do make this analysis that the collective defense is crucial. We all see that through changes in weather patterns that sea lanes are opening up, and we have to make sure that we do everything to protect that region. It is a vital part of NATO territory, and it is.
So we have a clip that's going to interact with what he's talking about. I'm going to play that clip shortly after this. I'm going to just play a couple more minutes of this, and then we're going to react to the next clip.
Actually, why, where in the past NATO was not so much involved when it came to the Arctic, that since 2025, on the request by these 7 High North allies who are bordering on the Arctic, that NATO has become more involved. This has led to a few, as I said, very successful discussions within the NATO alliance with our ambassadors in Brussels and our ministers. We discussed this importance, and currently we are working on the next steps to make sure that indeed we collectively protect what is at stake here.
Evo samo još par riječi da dodam što se tiče ove teme koja se odnosi.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best charity is giving water.
We're at the memorial, so we're remaining a little bit at the scene of the crime where she was killed. Neighbors and residents have left dozens and dozens and dozens of bouquets and signs and stuffed animals to honor her.
Ingrid was murdered in cold blood. She was doing what we've seen our neighbors do time
time and time again. She was showing up. She was standing up for our immigrant communities. She was showing up for our neighbors. She was peacefully observing. She was not a domestic terrorist as she was labeled. She was our neighbor.
When you first saw the video of what happened, what was going through your mind?
It was cold-blooded murder. And the last few weeks or a month or so in which ICE agents have been in our neighborhoods, local elected officials, neighborhood groups have all been warning that the escalating rhetoric and violence will lead to someone dying. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we saw happen a couple of days ago. We've seen the largest ICE raid in our nation's history, with the federal government deploying 2,000 plus agents, putting historic investments in recruiting and doubling the number of ICE agents that they have. And so what we've seen in response to that is that the past month or so, community members were afraid to go to work. They were afraid to go to school. We've seen ICE agents go into schools and to door knocking. And the rhetoric around the federal government saying that we're just targeting criminals or folks that are threats, it's a flat out lie. They've been literally door knocking. They went into restaurants, locking the doors.
I always say, if anybody's going to be able to tell if they're telling the truth about who they're hunting down, it's going to be the people that see ICE on a day-to-day basis, right? You have people that's literally watching them very intentionally. So they see what they do. They see who they're looking for, the people that they grab, what those people are doing right before they're grabbed. Like, they see these things. That's the reason why they're saying, like, no, they're not just going after convicted criminals. They're going after people who aren't doing anything as well.
Managed to see paperwork, and so they're targeting and profiling people based off how they look. And so, again, what we're seeing right now with the murder of Renee Good, a silver lining is that folks are waking up and are ready to fight back.
I don't like ICE. I don't like Trump. I don't like the lady that's in charge of ICE. I don't like our vice president. I can't say I'm a Democrat. I can't say I'm a Republican. I'm a real person, you know, and I speak the truth. I've always spoken truth. I'm an guy. I will tell you like it is. And Trump's a allowing this to happen, saying that she is the problem. Why don't you come down here? Come down here and meet the neighbors that she lived here by and talk to them and see how she actually was, and then tell me that she was the problem.
He's going to be pretty controversial, though.
Have you heard about Ryoko Pro? This is the cutting-edge portable Wi-Fi hotspot that people wish they found out about.
All right, we already know Jesse Lee Peterson is going to be controversial, but I just wanted to watch this one because he's saying some pretty controversial stuff that got a lot of people upset. So let's take a listen to how he says this could have been avoided.
Again, this female I want to show you a quick example of how evil is still in your life because of the invaders that you use, and they use you in your imagination. Not only they taking your life by making you believe that you are them and that they're good friends, they're also taking your life by causing you to go out into the world and do stupid stuff. And they tell you that it's the right thing to do. That's love. What would Christ do? I want to give you an example of evil of the mind. And it's driving you to do some stupid stuff. NBC News, an immigration and customer enforcement agent shot and killed a female on Wednesday during an immigration related operation in Minneapolis, in which she did not appear to be target. This female, according to reports, been harassing the ICE agents all day that day. And as a result, according to the report, she's dead. Now, do you think she decided on her own to go out there and have these false thrill or pretending like she loved the illegal aliens so much that she was going to do all that? Now she's dead. And it's nobody's fault but hers. No one's fault. It's not ICE's fault. It's her fault because she had no business being out there. Zero. But it's for the thrill. And now she's dead. Watch this from ABC 7.
Now to the chaos unfolding tonight in Minnesota. An ICE agent shooting and killing a woman in her car. It's also sparking outrage with vigils and protests across the country, including right here in Southern California. Eyewitness News reporter Abigail Velez is live in downtown LA, that's one place where angry demonstrators have taken to the streets. Abigail, what are they calling for tonight?
Well, accountability, Mark. A lot of the protesters here at Placita Olvera tell me they want to see this ICE agent prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They also tell me that they're angry and they're hurt, and they want ICE operations here in Los Angeles to come to an end.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the
Disturbing witness video captures the moment a woman is shot inside her car in Minneapolis Wednesday. An officer is seen firing at close range as bystanders scream in shock.
You shot someone in the face!
Another angle, slowed and zoomed, appears to show the driver with her arm out the window, waving ICE agents to go around her vehicle. Local leaders in Minneapolis say that video undercuts claims the driver was trying to hurt officers, with the mayor sending a blunt message tonight.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis.
The Department of Homeland Security, however, says the agent acted to protect himself.
They were attempting to push out their vehicle and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ran them.
But again, the witness video showing the moments just before the shots has raised serious questions about that claim.
Amazing. This woman is now dead because she allowed the devil to not only steal her life from within, and now he's stolen it physically. She did, and it's nobody's fault but hers. Because had she not been out there in the way of the law, trying to do his job, she probably would still be in her misery, but be alive. But she let her friend, the devil, drive her out there and harass the people who are trying to...
So what you guys think about what Jesse Peterson said? He said she let her friend the devil drag her out there and harass the law enforcement officer, the ICE agents, while they was doing their job, and this could have been avoided, and that's why she lost her life. What do you guys think about that? You agree with that or not? I mean, some people think he's very controversial in saying that. Well, I mean, I can see both sides of that. And when he says it like that, it does make it very sad and tragic that she lost her life, because it makes you think, oh, she just didn't have to go out there that day, you know? Or she could have just went somewhere else that day.
Enforced the law, and she brought this on herself. It ain't nobody's fault but hers and her friend the devil. Really all for ego reason. Isn't that amazing? She was serving no purpose. Not for the good at all being out there. She wasn't an ICE agent, so what was she doing in their business? This is from NBC News. Tom Winter break down key moments that investigators will likely be looking at from videos taken at different angles of the deadly ICE shooting. Watch this from NBC News.
We want to now take a closer look at the videos we just saw of the shooting incident. And joining the investigators we'll be looking at is NBC's Tom Winter. He covers law enforcement for us. So, Tom, we're going to start the video here. We're going to stop it pretty quickly because there's stuff we were learning from the get-go. Again, the police chief saying this vehicle was blocking the federal agents right there. That's right, Tom. And a big caveat, we don't know what happened before this, but they're definitely going to look at the fact this is an unmarked vehicle, but the lights are on. These are clearly members of law enforcement. So that's at least known to this driver. Let's play the video because something else happens right here. Those officers approach the vehicle. They try to open the door. Let's stop it here. How will this help the investigators? whatever is said here, what these officers say, if the driver said anything or not, could really help them understand whether or not they thought there was some sort of an imminent threat. Was this person trying to listen to them? Were they scared? Or was this going to be a problem?
And then, of course, what the driver does next, let's play that video. Trying to leave there, one of the officers felt like they were forced to fire, and they do. We want to show another angle, reverse angle of the same incident here. We're going to freeze it.
I don't know if he felt like he was forced to fire. A lot of people say he was pretty trigger happy. Some people are saying that, right? I don't totally disagree with that. He did seem a little bit trigger happy in some instance, but someone's also like, yeah, he's getting run over with a car. So it's like, you know, it's like, hey, that's why the nation was so split on this thing, right? Some people are like, well, he shouldn't have been using his body, you know, to stop a car. Other people are like, he was like 12 feet, 24 feet away from the tire itself, so he wasn't going to get injured. So yeah, you know, it's pretty split. I can see why people are losing it over this, or were.
This is that same angle here. And what does this show us, Tom?
Well, this appears to show an officer right in front of the vehicle. That, in between the way that the vehicle was moving and the timeline of that, how is the officer responding in that split second going to be critical for investigators.
Finally, one more piece of evidence we want to talk about here, and it is the bullet hole in the front of the windshield. What will this tell investigators?
When you look at this, you look at ballistics, you look at witness statements, you look at other video, all going to be part of this investigation. But Tom, it's going to take some time.
Hi, I'm Adam, and I made an appointment with Lifeline Screening to get my arteries examined for...
Amazing. If she wasn't out there, that would not have happened. She brought it on herself because she listened to her friend in her own imagination, all thoughts, all lies, all the time about anything. And then, I don't know, I wasn't there, but I bet she listened to her friends outside of her, inside of her. The same devil that deceived her. Just, girl, go out there. Stop the ice thing. And she got a thrill and ran. Now, I don't know if other people told them this. She followed the devil in her mind, that's for sure. And the devil came to rob, steal, and kill. In all your life, he's been robbing you of life. Your life. He's been stealing your life. And you just been giving it over. All in the name. And the mayor of Minneapolis, I think that was the same guy that was dancing with the Somalian, Allah people. The Somalian, I believe. Or the Muslim or somebody. I maybe have the wrong state, but I think that's the same guy that was doing that. Yeah, he was dancing with the mayor, dancing with the Somalians. Looking all stupid. According to Wikipedia, this female that's dead, she had moved to Canada with her wife. But our lady gonna have a wife. But anyway, she had moved to Canada with her wife when Trump was elected in 2024. That's according to Wikipedia. So what's she doing back over here then? She needed to be over there in Canada using her truck, according to the report, as a weapon. The mayor of Minneapolis blamed ICE agent, and the governor put the National Guard on alert. Watch this from KTVU.
The Minneapolis City Council identified the woman who was killed as Renee Nicole Good. Roughly 2,000 ICE agents are in Minneapolis for what they're calling their biggest immigration operation ever. Minneapolis's mayor laying blame for the incident squarely on their shoulders.
To ICE?
It's not clear if the vehicle actually struck the officer. Many ICE agents do not wear body cameras. Photos at the scene show a bullet hole in the windshield of the SUV. Massive crowds surged in the aftermath of the shooting, protesters throwing snowballs at law enforcement vehicles as they left the area. The governor putting the National Guard on alert.
We do not need any further help from the federal government. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be...
I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people have not liked Tim Walz's role in all of this. They're literally like, this guy's losing his mind. So many people are happy that he decided to not run for governor. So he's already made the announcement that he will not pursue the seat again. So he will just focus on the year he has left in office, and then after that, he's going to exit, which that wasn't very shocking to me.
Deployed if necessary.
State officials are coordinating with the FBI on the investigation.
Amazing. And that's the same governor that allowed the riot to happen last summer or the summer before, how long ago that was. The so-called George Floyd back in 2020. Apparently this female had moved back to the, you tell me she moved back to the States. Yeah, but to Minneapolis just recently. Amazing! And you see those demonstrators out there, it's all evil. It's not for the good. They have no business being out there at all. They don't even know what's driving them to make them go out there. They think those are their ideas. They don't know, first of all, they've been encouraged to do it, not only by their fake friends in their minds, their enemies, but by the politicians, Democratic politicians, and the media. These people have been pushing anger and destruction for a long time now, only to get back in office. That's all they're doing it. And the people follow that. And now they're out there looking stupid. And you ask them, why are you here? They don't even know why. National Guard on the alert. What the? And now, these are examples of evil. And thrills, which are evil. And emotions, which are evil. Nothing real about this. It's evil. This is hell on earth inside of human beings. These people have no business getting involved or in the way of ICE protecting the American citizens by sending the illegals back to wherever they came from. Well, they've been told to do.
I mean, it's to each his own, right? Jesse feels like that. He feels like these people have no right to impede, no right to, bother ICE during their missions, and other people feel like they have the right to protest, and everyone has the right to peacefully protest, but you shouldn't be throwing things at ICE. You shouldn't be destroying ICE's property. You know, when you are interfering with them making an arrest, now, you know, people can go on a record to say that you're breaking the law.
Good by the Democratic politicians and the liberal media. And they're out there because they've been told to go out.
Someone called me a scammer, so I'm going to watch my face live for everyone to see.
Clear. If we have to repeat things 5 times, we will. So I want to give you a reminder, because it's still there. Stand up for your country. You got a little scratchy throat here. I don't know why. It just comes out of nowhere. But bear with me, I'll get through it in a way that will be clear. If we have to repeat things 5 times, we will. So I want to give you a reminder, because it still is early in 2026. No spin means we don't pander, we don't propagandize, and we don't push ideology. That's what no spin means. It's like we try to analyze the news based on every possible fact we can accumulate. And separates us from almost everybody else. Okay? Because most people have a preconceived, I'm going to say this because that's what my audience wants to hear. We don't do that. All right? And so when we're analyzing very important stories, like the rebellion that's going on now in the United States, we have to gather an enormous amount of information in order to make sense of it all. And I'll prove it again this evening, beginning with the talking points memo. So I wrote a column, posted on BillO'Reilly.com, filed it on Saturday, called The Rebellion. So there are 8 states that are rebelling against the federal government's immigration law. I will list them in a moment. Okay? And what does that mean? It just means they refuse to obey the law. That's a rebellion. This is the sanctuary city movement, but it's more than that. Okay, so on Saturday you saw one of those states, Minnesota, host a demonstration against the ICE shooting of last week. A couple of thousand people showed up, and there's nothing wrong with people protesting. That's what we do in America when we don't think something is wrong. But this protest was sponsored by a far-left group called the Minnesota Immigration Rights and Action Committee. This was an ideological protest, not an organic protest. Okay? It was organized exclusively by the far left to seek people's presence on the far left. That's what this was all about. Okay. Authorities in Minneapolis arrested 29 people, and they were throwing chunks of ice and other debris at the local cops. Feds had no presence here.
That's crazy.
To a local demonstration. All right?
I'm thinking to myself, what do you think is going to happen if you're throwing chunks of ice at the local cops? What happens if it hits something and breaks off and it hits a cop in the eye, and the cop literally loses their eye, or it hits them in the face somewhere? That's just like, you're not thinking if you do something like that. That's crazy.
Right? And one police officer was hurt. That's the who, what, when, where, and why of the rally. The people who attended the rally are in one category. They are leftists who hate the Trump administration. Roll the tape.
There was another being murdered by law enforcement, and I'm ready to be done with it.
I love my community, I love my city, and I hate what's happening to it with people who frankly aren't from here coming in and telling us who should be here. And when it comes down to loving my neighbor, I'm just going to love my neighbor.
Here's ICE riding through our neighborhoods, destroying families, destroying businesses, tearing our communities apart, and they're not being held accountable. And that's why we're here. We're out here to demonstrate, to try to hold them accountable.
Are you looking to sell your house as is without the hassle of costly repairs or realtor fees? Then listen up. We're confident in our...
Okay, fine. But that's not what really that is. That is an open border. We don't want any law enforcement to confront undocumented migrants. We don't want it. You let them in, they do what they want. That's what these people stand for. But they're never honest about it. That shouldn't be a surprise. 75 million people voted for Kamala Harris, who supported President Biden's open border policy and didn't want any law enforcement against people, foreign nationals, who came into the country illegally. Kamala Harris wouldn't have done anything. Would have continued on the open border and let people just wave on it. Okay? 75 million Americans voted for her. A lot of folks. So of course you're going to have that. Now, the 8 states in open rebellion are these: California, Oregon, Washington State, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. New York and Vermont are right on the edge there. I don't have them on there because there's a dialogue, at least, going on with Washington, but you can put them on there. And when you have 10 states, it's basically telling the federal government, we're not going to obey your law. You have what they had before the Civil War. It's exactly the same thing. And I make the point in the column that from 1830 to 1860, 30 years, Southern states said, we're not going to obey whatever you say. And we're not just talking slavery, we're talking tariffs, we're talking almost everything. Andrew Jackson slapped them down. Okay? But then we had a series of weak presidents like Franklin Pierce and James Buchanan who let the South rise in ferocity. And then we had the Civil War. That was a rebellion against the federal government. Only other time in our history we've seen this was during the Vietnam War. But that was a populist uprising. Started out ideological, but then the war got out of control because of Lyndon Johnson's incompetency and deceit. And the American people, and that just cut across almost every barrier, said enough of this. And the demonstrations happened. And violence happened. Kent State, National Guard, and a lot of other areas. Now, the federal government at this point has a couple of obligations. Has to enforce the law. Has to.
but they can de-escalate violent confrontations. So if ICE agents see that there's a person like Ms. Good impeding their investigation with an automobile, the vehicle, then you de-escalate that. You arrest her later, which they could have done easily. All right? You don't up it, because if there's a lot more violence, then the Trump administration is going to lose the country. It's going to. You got to de-escalate in any kind of potential violent situation. Now, that doesn't mean if the ICE agents are attacked that they can't fight back. They should fight back. I'm not saying that. But if you can lessen potential violence, you have to do that. And that's not just me saying that. That's every law enforcement agency in the country has that in their manual. Okay? If you don't have to use lethal force, you don't. Get it later. Do it later. Now, that's number one. Number two, 77 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. And that vote needs to be respected. It's not respected by the left. Okay, it's not. And it's probably a vice versa on that, too. But when 77 million Americans say we want immigration law enforced, you got to enforce it. So the Trump administration is not doing anything wrong, theoretically. Okay? But the ICE commanders have got to know that this is a volatile situation. Because if it gets worse, the Democrats are going to win the midterms. And they're making their stand not on the economy now, because the economy is pretty good. They're making their stand on this. This is the hill they're standing on. Illegal immigration. I think that's foolish. I believe most Americans see this Minnesota stuff for what it is. A provocation of the federal government. A rebellion against social order. I believe most of us see that. And the Democratic Party is standing opposed to that. It's going to hurt it. Particularly because it's a weak party with no leader. But if you are calling ICE Gestapo and you are supporting open borders and no supervision of foreign nationals, and you won't even cooperate in the 10 states that I mentioned with criminal migrant investigations, you wouldn't even cooperate then, Americans are going to walk away from you, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like if you would ask me a couple months ago, do I see the Dems taking the midterms, I would have said no. I don't think I necessarily see that now, but I do see more potential than I did before. I mean, especially when you got the likes of Nick Fuentes, Clavicular saying things like they're going to vote for Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance because who wants a fat vice president? You know, a fat president and like things like that. So I just think it's interesting. I don't know if they'll lose it in the midterms, but I see more potential for them to lose it now. Let's just say that.
Sum it up. The federal government has to enforce immigration law. But it has to be done a little bit differently now. Situation is just too volatile. We don't want dead people. We don't. But we do want people held accountable. And that's a memo.
Listen to this. Emma in Texas just placed the craziest under-enrollment order. She picked Sandalwood Clean Sport, which is actually my
own companies said that day. So let's go to the Clintons, Bill and Hillary. They've been asked to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee tomorrow and Wednesday, the president tomorrow, and the former Secretary of State on Wednesday. They're not going to show up. I'll be stunned if they show up. So what happens then? The Oversight Committee, James Comer, says, you know, we want your depositions closed or private about Epstein. Why? Because Bill Clinton took 26 trips aboard Epstein's plane, a lot of them in conjunction with
the Clinton Foundation, which Hillary Clinton is a chief officer of. That's why. That's legit, I think, right? So they're supposed to show up, but they're not going to show up. And then what happens? Joining us now from Washington is lawyer Bob Driscoll. He is a partner in Dickinson and Wright. He is very well experienced in these matters. So we have a frame of reference with Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. Both defied subpoenas to appear before Congress, and both were sent to prison because of it, correct?
Yes. They both blew off their subpoenas completely. There was a referral to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice prosecuted both of them and gained convictions. And both cases went up on appeal, and both convictions were upheld.
Okay, so that was Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, the president. And they put them in the jail, and Navarro and Bannon both said, okay, I'm willing to do the time. Now, that's not going to happen with Bill and Hillary Clinton, is it?
I wouldn't be so sure. I think it could happen.
Do you think the sitting president, a former president of the United States, is going to get sentenced to prison because he won't show up and testify?
I think there's a chance. I think the president is there. The better approach for him to take would be to show up and object if they can object to specific questions, as harassing, as irrelevant, as simply asking embarrassing questions for the sake of that. But the ability of Congress to issue subpoenas is pretty well established. There are limited circumstances where courts have held that Congress has gone too far. But I think that he's in better shape to protect himself by either showing up and objecting to the questions, having his lawyer object to the questions he thinks go too far, he doesn't want to answer, or by filing suit immediately before he's supposed to show up and trying to challenge the subpoena in a federal court in Washington.
So
to just blow off the subpoena puts him at risk of being held in contempt, because the committee can hold him in contempt, refer the whole House to hold him in contempt, and then the House would vote to hold him in contempt and make a referral to the Department of Justice.
Yeah, the House is so close, though, it might not, he might not get, he might not lose. But even if they don't show up this week, and are you thinking they're going to show up tomorrow and Wednesday?
My guess would be that they will either show up or they will file suit in D.C. to try to challenge the subpoena and drag it out in litigation. Okay. I just think it's too big a risk to not show up at all. The case law is pretty clear that the courts do not like it if you blow off the subpoena completely. If there's a dispute over what you say when you're there, okay.
Yeah, I got it, but there's no, tomorrow, we looked at the House oversight schedule, there's nothing on it. The subpoena still stands. So I understand, though, that they would have a second chance. They would get warned by Comer, and if they don't come next time or whatever, then they're going to get it. Will they give them a second chance if they don't show up this week?
Typically, the way this would work and the way the chance he would get is the committee would schedule a vote to vote on contempt. And presumably he could cure his contempt by saying he'd show up before they took that vote. After that, the whole House could vote. The other thing that's happened this year that's a new development in this area of law is Jim Jordan made a referral of a witness for his committee straight to the Department of Justice for obstruction. When he didn't he thought the witness was too obstreperous and wouldn't answer the questions, and he made a straight referral to the Department of Justice without going through a contempt hearing. So I just think there's a lot of risk for the former president and the former first lady to not show up at all. They've got experienced counsel. I'm sure they're looking at all this. But I wouldn't bank on if there were a Democratic DOJ. Okay, great. That it would probably be open to hearing that this is a harassing subpoena and doesn't have to do with the merits and all.
That's going to be very tough when you're on a plane.
This DOJ, they're not going to want to hear that.
But that's partisan.
If our guy had to go to jail, so do you.
That's partisan. It'll, as you know, go beyond it'll go into the federal court system. And if you are on Epstein's plane 26 times under the banner of the Clinton Foundation, you got to answer questions about that. So the courts are going to go, it's a legitimate line of questioning.
So you guys think he should be arrested? Because plenty of people said that. They said 26 times is way too overzealous. They were literally saying things like if it was 5, maybe even 10, but 26 shows that he was obviously up to something that was no good. What you think about that, Mary?
This isn't something just to embarrass the Clintons. Last word.
You're going to feel your life change forever. Just kidding. 1 gummy, you're going to feel chill and mellow. 2 gummies, you'll feel euphoric but not overwhelmed.
I think not showing up puts him in the worst position because his argument there is there's not one relevant question I could be asked. And that's clearly not true. The better course for him is to show up and answer what is fairly asked and object if he thinks they're trying to make a spectacle of it or asking inappropriate questions just for the sake of exposing personal flaws he may have.
Okay.
I think not showing up is not a great idea for him, and I think he's at risk if he doesn't do it.
All right. Well, we're obviously on it. Thank you, Counsel. Appreciate your time very much. All right, overseas, Iran. So all of the internet is down. Very hard to get anything out of there. There are pictures of the demonstrations. They've been going on since December 28th. Government's tiring, no question about that. I did talk to President Trump about this over the weekend. And I don't like to, it's a private conversation, but I can report that my take on it is that U.S. doesn't do military action unless it would be decisive. So if there's a tip that would get rid of the mullahs, who are obviously murderers, been killed between 500 and 1,000 people already, according to the rights organizations, the human rights organizations. So as a tip that you can use military to bomb something or do something to get them out of there, I support that. But just a random, no. I think it's going to go. But boy, it's slow. Because that police state is tight. It's not as tight as Cuba. Okay, Cuba, but the people there are starving now. And there's no oil going in, so that means they can't cool off their homes, they can't cook their food, they're going to go. But Cuba is actually a tighter police state than Iran because of the size. It's easy to regulate the island of Cuba. It's not easy to regulate a big country like Iran. But both of them may go in the next few weeks, which is just, and that's what the conversation between the president and myself is all about, the new realignment of the world, which is taking place. Greenland. So this one isn't nearly at the level of Venezuela, Cuba, or Iran. This is a matter of military bases and mineral rights. Okay. I think the Secretary of State Rubio is doing an excellent job. And I have somebody in there very close. He's not going to support military action, Rubio.
Really?
He's not. Because 2 things would happen. The American public would turn against the entire Republican Party and Trump administration. It's never going to happen that Americans are going to support military action against Greenland. Ever. And number 2, you can get the same thing you want by negotiation. The Danes, I don't have a lot of emotion invested in Greenland. Okay?
Yeah, I don't have too much in Greenland anyway either, but I understand the demographics of it. And we talked about that way earlier in the year, last year, about Greenland and the position of it in Russia and Canada, the United States, and all of that. I didn't expect Bill to say that Rubio wouldn't support military activity in Greenland. So that's very interesting for me. I mean, I'm sure Pete Hegseth would support it, but I guess I didn't expect him to say that Rubio wouldn't. So it's interesting for him to say that, but the reasons why he gives they make sense.
Make a deal. And there are supposed to be meetings this week in Washington between the Danish government, which oversees Greenland, and Secretary of State Rubio. So I'm just praying, and I use that word literally, they work it out. The cost of everything still rising.
Don't buy another toothbrush until you...
That is fixed now.
What kind of deal are you looking for from Cuba? What kind of deal are you looking for from Cuba?
You'll find out pretty soon. We're talking to Cuba, and you'll find out pretty soon. And one of the things that I want taken care of, and one of the groups that I want taken care of, are the people that came from Cuba that were forced out or left under duress, and they're great citizens of the United States right now. You have a lot of people forced out of Cuba unfairly, so we're going to take care of, most importantly right now, we're going to take care of the people that came from Cuba that are American citizens or in our country.
Are you going to Greenland to seize any oil tankers that are headed to Cuba?
Well, we have a lot of oil people really interested. You saw that the other day. That was just a small group because the room in the White House, we need the ballroom, actually. We could have filled up the ballroom practically. We have so many people that want to go in for oil. So you saw some great companies.
Are you going to send Starlink to Iran, sir, to help the people on the ground with the internet blackout for more than 72 hours?
We're talking about that. We may get the internet going, if that's possible.
Are you talking to us?
We may speak to Elon, because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company. So we may speak to Elon Musk. And in fact, I'm going to call him as soon as I'm finished with you.
Iran said that they would consider military and commercial bases as legitimate targets if used drug. Are you concerned about...
If they do that, we'll consider things targets that they wouldn't believe. If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before. And they won't even believe it. I have options that are so strong. So, I mean, if they did that, it'll be met with a very, very powerful force.
Iran takes their threats seriously.
Don't you think so, CNN? Don't you think so? Wouldn't you say that they probably do it this way? After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out, don't you think, and then you just had Venezuela, don't you think, she says, CNN, do you think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
Something weird is happening in the housing market, and no one's talking about it. I can buy your house fast and can...
What kind of deal are you looking for?
Wouldn't you say that they probably do it this way? After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out, don't you think, and then you just had Venezuela, don't you think, she says, CNN, do you think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
I just wanted to go back to that because he's so rude sometimes. Like he says, what a stupid question. I mean, I think it's legitimate in the sense where I think Venezuela convinced more people, you know, that Trump is cray-cray. For those who, I guess, weren't already convinced. I mean, I don't know what else you need to see. Like, the dude does drone strikes. He does surprise kidnapping. I don't know. Like, nothing President Trump does literally shocks me. Most of the time, I'm just laughing at it. But I think it's a legitimate question in the sense where some people wonder how far is he willing to go, like, depending on what country it is, right? Some people feel like, well, is he going to be that ballsy with Russia? Is he going to be that ballsy with China? Probably, right now, I'd say probably not. He's a lot more strategic than just than that. He could be a loose cannon, but I don't think we would see that with those two countries in particular. Let's go to the next live stream, guys. The next clip of the live stream. Let's get it. Live stream is foreign policy. No, I don't want to go back to CNN. No.
What a nice grouping this is. This is really nice. Look at this.
All right, so this is a little bit longer, so let's take a look at this news clip.
It's going to be very rough in about 10 minutes, so we'll have to go a little bit quickly. They just said very, very rough.
For on Iran, have they crossed the red line yet to trigger a response?
It's starting to, it looks like, and there seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. but we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Which options have you been briefed on? Are you meeting with senior officials?
Am I going to really, are you asking me to say what will they do, where will we attack, when, and at what angle will we attack from?
I'm with the U.S. White House TV pool. I'm wondering, are you being briefed on options? I'm with CNN, sir.
Why don't you just say I'm with CNN? She says I'm with the White House pool. And I said,
If you're watching this right now, I hope, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears that 1 in 3 people on this earth do not have access to clean water, you don't just feel bad. I hope you actually do something about it, because right now, you can make that change. With just $100, you can give 100 people clean water for 5 years. Humanity is on the ground, bringing real solutions, wells, hand pumps, solar power filtration systems to those who need it the most. Donate now to humanity.
Not only will we buy your house, but we are so confident in what we do that we guarantee to get you the cash you deserve for your home in less than 30 days. On top of that, we will cover your monthly rent, mortgage, and any moving expenses that you have during the process. So if you're looking to sell your house quickly without the BS, without any lowball offers, then click the button below, answer a few questions. It takes about 15 seconds, and we will give you a fair, legitimate cash offer today. So if you're ready to stop wasting your time with realtors that only bring you tire kickers and investors that only give you undervalued lowball offers, then click the button below to get a cash offer on your property today. Our process is fast, easy, and hassle-free. Simply click the button, answer a few questions, and receive a fair cash offer for your home.
What options have you been briefed on? Are you meeting with senior officials?
Am I going to really, are you asking me to say what will...
My fault, chat. That was my fault. I had to run to the bathroom.
What will they do? Where will we attack? When? And at what angle will we attack from?
I'm with the U.S. White House TV pool. I'm wondering, are you being briefed on options? I'm with CNN, sir.
Why don't you just say I'm with CNN? She says I'm with the White House pool. And I say, what? You're with CNN. You're with fake news. Because CNN is fake news. Go ahead, give me a question.
Can I ask how you're balancing between helping protesters versus hindering them? Because I imagine.
Nah, he goes, why don't you just say you're with fake news? You're with fake news. Why don't you just say that?
That's delegate violence to strike.
I mean, some of the protesters were killed through the stampeding. I mean, there's so many of them. And some were shot. But we're getting a full report. I'm getting an hourly report. And we're going to make a determination.
Sir, the son of the exposed Shah and some military leaders are encouraging you to take action in Iran. Is that a serious option? And I listen.
People have been shot, and we're looking at it. Yeah, please.
Are you going to go to Venezuela? Is Secretary Rubio going to go to Venezuela?
We're doing well. Venezuela is really working out well. We're working along really well with the leadership, and we'll see how it all works out.
Are you sure in the meeting with Dulcie to go?
At some point I'll meet. Yeah, she's been very good. She asked us, can we take 50 million barrels of oil? And I said, yes, we can. It's $4.2 billion. And it's on its way right now to the United States.
When will you meet with Machado this week?
There's something to grab here. Because it's going to get rough. And I don't seem to be in a... I think you did this to me. You put me in a position where there's absolutely nothing to grab. So I'm looking for something to grab, and it's not going to be Caroline.
Have any oil companies made commitments to you, sir? Have any oil companies made commitments to the United States after your meeting on Friday, sir? Which have Exxon,
No, I didn't like Exxon's response. We have so many that want it. I'd probably be inclined to keep Exxon out. I didn't like their response. They're playing too cute.
What backstops or guarantees have you told the oil company?
They're playing too cute. That actually cracked my wife up. Here's the thing, because everyone didn't take well to the way Trump got his oil, right? Some people, I'm not saying it's necessarily us in the chat, right? Shout out to probably your mama, but some people were like, bro, you just kidnapped the whole dude and his wife. Like, come on, bro. You couldn't, like, negotiate for some oil. And other people are like, hell yeah, that was my president. So, you know, Exxon is probably like, nah, man, we didn't think that was cool. Dude, the fact that Trump says they're trying to be too cute is hilarious. Like, he literally, why did he just describe Exxon like his granddaughter? Like, I'm cooked over that.
That you're willing to provide.
Guarantees that they're going to be safe, that there's going to be no problem, and there won't be. There's not going to be a problem. They had problems in the past because they didn't have Trump as a president. They had stupid people.
So, President, you're saying that they would use a deal. What kind of deal are you looking for from Cuba? What kind of deal are you looking for from Cuba?
You're going to find out pretty soon.
Their website is running a crazy deal right now. You can get 4 underarm sticks, 3.
We're talking to Cuba, and you'll find out pretty soon. And one of the things I want taken care of, and one of the groups I want taken care of, are the people that came from Cuba that were forced out or left under duress, and they're great citizens of the United States right now. You have a lot of people forced out of Cuba unfairly, so we're going to take care of, most importantly right now, we're going to take care of the people that came from Cuba that are American citizens or in our country.
Do you plan to seize any oil tankers that are headed to Cuba?
Well, we have a lot of oil people really interested. You saw that the other day. That was just a small group because the room in the White House, we need the ballroom actually. We could have filled up the ballroom practically. We have so many people that want to go in for oil. So you saw some great companies.
Are you going to send Starlink to Iran, sir, to help the people on the ground with the internet blackout for more than 72 hours?
We're going to be talking about that. We may get the internet going, if that's possible.
Are you talking to Musk?
We may speak to Elon, because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company. So we may speak to Elon Musk. And in fact, I'm going to call him as soon as I'm finished with you.
Just quickly, Iran said that they would consider military and commercial bases as legitimate targets if you struck. Are you concerned about...
If they do that, we'll consider things targets that they wouldn't believe. If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before. And they won't even believe it. I have options that are so strong. So, I mean, if they did that, it'll be met with a very, very powerful force.
I think Iran takes their threats seriously.
I think so. Don't you think so, CNN? Don't you think so? Wouldn't you say that they probably do at this point? After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out, don't you think, and then you just had Venezuela, don't you think, she says, CNN, do you think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
Are you coordinating with allies on the response to Iran?
President, when will you meet with Maria Corina Machado this week?
Wednesday. I look forward to that.
Have you named your board of peace for Gaza yet? Where do those plans stand?
The board of peace is being formed, but essentially it's the most important leaders of the most important nations.
Hey, I'm Tony Robbins, and you know the truth. Most people are managing their lives. They're maintaining their...
All nations, but the most important, you take the most important leaders and nations, that's who the Board of Peace is going to be. Everybody wants to be on it.
One group taking your threat seriously is one area taking your threat, the New York Post.
New York Post treats me semi-fairly. So go ahead.
One group taking your threats very seriously is Greenland. Are you still thinking of military action there, or is anything that can...
Where? Military?
Greenland. Greenland. Is there anything they can offer you for a deal?
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland. And I am not going to let that happen.
Is there any deal they can offer you? Either like...
Yes. Russia or China will.
Are you still thinking of military action there, or is anything they can...
So go ahead.
One group taking your
Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that.
So it's like right there, like President Trump could go in depth and somebody could say, why won't he just give us an explicit answer? But I feel like he does right there. And he said this time and time again, right? So on one account, you got, God, we just watched someone who said that, it was Bill O'Reilly, right? Yep, chat. It was Bill O'Reilly that just said that there's no way that Marco Rubio is going to support military activity in Greenland. But he's not going to fight Trump on it. Like, he probably will share his opinion. He probably might advise against it, but he's not going to fight him on it because at the end of the day, we know that President Trump's cabinet, and as much disarray as they may be, they do their best to try to present a united front, even though their united front might sometimes seem a little cray-cray to some people, but they do their best to do this. So with that being said, Trump explicitly here says, if we don't do it, Russia or China's going to do it, and I'm not going to let that happen. So that right there should kind of give us at least a little bit of a window into what President Trump is thinking in regards to Greenland. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't think he's necessarily going to take it the way he did with Maduro in Venezuela, but I guess it depends on how the... what do I want to say? How the negotiations work out, right? Because if they don't reach a good deal, you know, or any type of negotiations, at the end of the day, Trump's like, well, I'm not going to let China or Russia take it, so someone's going to take it, and it's not going to be them.
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland, and I am not going to let that happen.
You know, they can offer you, and they're like,
yeah, sure, I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
Are you okay if that compromises?
See what I said? It's like he says it right there. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm willing to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or another, we're going to have Greenland. So that right there, I think he gives us a very explicit answer there. Yeah, like Trump, you know, President Trump was very transparent earlier in 2025 as to why Greenland was so important. I went over this in a couple of different live streams where I encouraged a lot of people to look at a map, a world map. And I could do this because the large majority of my viewers are baby boomers and Gen Xers. So I can tell you guys, hey, just find a world map and look at Greenland on this map and then take a look at, and you guys have no problem doing that, right? Anyone who's a bit younger than you guys, this is going to be challenging and they're just going to try to Google it. Nonetheless, you can find a world map and you can see on that world map where Greenland is at, where Russia is at, where America's at, and you can start to see based on demographics why Greenland is of interest to especially Russia and China.
NATO, if NATO effectively ceases to exist.
I'm the one that saved NATO. I'm the one that got him to pay 5% of GDP. Wait a minute. It was 2%, and they didn't pay. Now they're paying 5%. I'm the one that saved NATO. You wouldn't have NATO if I weren't president.
Would you pull the U.S. out of NATO? Would you consider doing that?
Well, maybe NATO would be upset if I did it. Maybe NATO would save a lot of money. But I like NATO. I just wonder whether or not if we needed NATO, would they be there for us? I'm not sure they would. You know, we spend a lot of money on NATO, and I'm not sure they would.
But what would you say?
Now, what's happened is, as you...
I think that's interesting that he feels like that. I can't argue with the fact that he says some people get so angry when they hear him talk like this and they're like, God, President Trump is so cocky. I mean, he has some points here about if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have NATO. If you guys remember during his first presidency when he came in and he would go to the meetings, especially initially, he said he was very quiet at first because he just wanted to listen. And then he realized that NATO was very annoying to him and he didn't like it because one of the first things that stood out to him was the United States was not only paying the most money, but they were paying the most consistently. So most countries, they weren't paying the share that they needed to pay. And oh, by the way, they were only paying it like maybe once or twice a year. And President Trump was like, yeah, so here's the thing. If you're not paying into NATO, don't expect the United States to protect you. You guys remember that? Because then there were a whole bunch of countries that started to ask President Trump, so what happens if we end up going to war? Are you going to protect us? And remember that infamous line President Trump gave them? He said, no, I mean, this like, if you don't pay rent, you get kicked out. So he's like, no, if you're not paying into NATO, the United States is not going to war with you, for you. Like, none of that's going to happen. So, I mean, I get what he's saying. I think it's interesting what he says. He doesn't know if NATO would be there for us if we needed them. Now that, I think, is just something that presidents after him should take heed to, if they even care, but we should all pay attention to there, because I can't help but to ask myself, why would he say that? There's a reason why he feels that way. Chad, do you guys know why President Trump would say that? He literally says that he likes NATO, but he doesn't know that if we needed them, if NATO would be there. I think that that's an interesting statement.
You know, Sleepy Joe Biden gave $350 billion to Ukraine and got nothing for it. I got rare earth back. I got, I think, value back far greater than that. But and that's what he should have done. Now, if you look at what's going on with respect to NATO, we have a very good relationship. 5% GDP, and they pay us. We send them military equipment, and they pay us back the full cost of the equipment. The war is, we make money with the war, but I don't even want to talk about that. I want to save the lives. They're Russian and Ukrainian lives. I want to save the lives. That's the only reason I'm doing it. This is Biden's war. Should have never happened. Would have never happened if I were president. This is Biden's war. It's not Trump's war. All I can do is stop it. And I think we're making progress toward stopping it, which would be number 9 1/4. You know what the quarter is, right? Right? Thailand and Cambodia.
My dear brothers and sisters, a child wakes up not from hunger, not from the cold, but from thirst.
Went at it again, but I got to stop very quickly. I consider that 1/4 of a war.
When was the last time you made a tangible offer to Greenland yet? Have you made an actual offer to Denmark?
I haven't done that, but Greenland should make the deal, because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds. In the meantime, you have Russian destroyers and submarines, and China destroyers and submarines all over the place. We're not going to let that happen.
In the meantime, are you going
And if it affects NATO, I haven't done that, but Greenland should make the deal, because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2.
Oh my gosh, like, why President Trump? That's why I had to go back. I said, this man just said 2 dog sleds. I can't, like.
2 dog sleds. In the meantime, you have Russian destroyers and submarines. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that?
Oh my God. You know why this is so bad for him to say? Because, like, someone's going to be like, remember during the presidential debate when he was like, they're eating the pets, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. And I'm just like, dude, here he goes again. He literally said Greenland's defense is 2 dog sleds. I'm like, dude, you can't make this up. This is our president. You can't make this up.
You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds. In the meantime, you have Russian destroyers and submarines, and China destroyers and submarines all over the place. We're not going to let that happen.
In the meantime, are you going
And if it affects NATO, then it affects NATO. But, you know, they need us much more than we need them. I will tell you that right now.
Are you going to increase our military
That's
bases?
a war that should have never happened with Ukraine.
The UK and Germany are discussing plans for a joint NATO mission to protect Arctic security in Greenland. Does that change your calculus at all?
No, look, we're talking about acquiring, not leasing, not having it short term. We're talking about acquiring.
Does that require
And if we don't do it, Russia or China will, and that's not going to happen when I'm president.
Are you going to increase the amount of military bases on Greenland in the meantime?
We have bases on Greenland.
Are you going to do more?
We put a lot of soldiers there right now if I want, but you need more than that. You need ownership. You really need title, as they say in the real estate business.
So in Minneapolis, your administration has advocated for absolute immunity for the ICE officer who shot Renee Gunn. How do you define absolute immunity? What does that mean?
Everyone's seen it. And the woman was very violent. She's a very radical person. Very sad what happened. Her friend was very radical. Go and drive.
But for the officer absolute immunity, how would you define that?
Well, I'm going to let the people define it. But immunity, you know what immunity means as well as I do.
So that officer should be bound on the force?
You can't be treating law enforcement that way, whether it's ICE or border protection. You really have You really need title, as they say in the real estate business.
So on Minneapolis, your administration has advocated for absolute immunity for the ICE officer who shot Renee Gunn. How do you define absolute immunity? What does that mean?
Everyone's seen it. The woman was very violent. She's a very radical person. Very sad what happened. Her friend was very radical. Go and drive.
But for the officer, absolute immunity, how would you define that?
Well, I'm going to let the people define it. But immunity, you know what immunity means as well as I do.
So that officer should be back on the force?
You can't be treating law enforcement that way, whether it's ICE or Border Patrol or our police and men and women. You can't do that. We have.
So even though some of us might not like what happened out in Minneapolis, what do we think about what President Trump is saying right now? Complete immunity. I'm not shocked that some people are calling for that, because I even had one of my coworkers that watches my live stream. Shout out to Ali. He said that, hey, by the way, I watched that video frame by frame, and frame by frame, the officer's innocent. And I was just like, come on, dude. I shot a couple things back. He shot a couple things back. Then he's like, we'll talk. So it's like, yeah, and me and him talk things like that all the time. We have a very pretty open, transparent relationship. I just think it's just interesting, like, complete immunity. I'm not shocked. Is anybody shocked that they're asking for this? I'm not shocked at all. But some people who have watched the video over and over again, like, let's say, for instance, Mayor Jacob Fry, he's like, no, this ICE agent is a murderer. There's no way that he gets complete immunity.
The law enforcement in our country is doing really well, despite the fact that Sleepy Joe Biden allowed people to pour through an open border. Crime stats just came out. We have the best crime stats on record, despite all the criminals he allowed into our country. We've gotten a lot of them out. We have to respect our law enforcement. At a very minimum, that woman was very, very disrespectful to law enforcement. And you heard the same noises, you saw the same crunch that I saw. You can't do that with law enforcement, whether it's police or ICE or Border Patrol or anybody else.
When it comes to ICE officials, though, Mr. President, well, just to clarify on the absolute immunity, do you believe ICE officers should have absolute immunity?
Saving Moses is here to save babies and toddlers where the need is most urgent and the care is least.
Generally speaking, these people have been harassed. They're threatened every day. They had bands out playing so they couldn't sleep at the hotel. I see what they're doing to them. They're threatening them constantly. And all they're doing is doing what I got elected on. We had millions of people that came into our country that are horrible people that shouldn't be in our country. They're murderers, they're drug dealers, they're people from mental institutions, they're the criminally insane. They're people from prisons. They were allowed to come into our country because Biden was a stupid person, and the people surrounding him, very smart, very vicious, but they have no common sense, and they're radicalized people. They're radical left people, not radical right. They're radical left people. And all they're doing is what I campaigned on. I won in a landslide. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote. We won the districts. We won everything. We won the counties. We won the counties by 79%, I believe. I campaigned on the Great Border, and now we have a Great Border. But Biden let 25 million people come into this country, and many of those people are criminals, including 11,888 murderers. And we want them out. And I won on that. Now people don't talk about it because the border is so secure, nobody wants to talk about it anymore. The border was one of the reasons I won the election. I've done such a good job on it that nobody wants to talk about it anymore. The border is totally secure. And now the crime stats just came out, and they're the best numbers since they were taken, and that's like 50 years ago. We have the best crime numbers, despite the fact that a lot of criminals were allowed into our country. We have to respect our law enforcement.
Do you believe that deadly force was necessary after watching all the footage a few days have passed? What's your assessment there?
It was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw that? They were harassing them, were following for days and for hours. And I think, frankly, they're professional agitators.
But just disrespect.
And I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out who's paying for it. With their brand new signs and all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement should not be in a position where they have to put up with this stuff. What that woman and what her friend and what their other friends were doing to law enforcement, not just ICE, law enforcement is outrageous.
That's interesting, right? Because he's pretty much going on a record to say he pretty much thinks she's a part of Antifa to an extent, right? Even though he's already ruled Antifa as a terrorist group, right, in America. So I think that that's very interesting when he says that. A professional agitator, right? That's what he called her. He said, we're going to figure out who's paying for it with their new signs and everything.
Can you tell us about your trip to Detroit on Tuesday?
I'm going to be making a trip to Detroit to talk about our unbelievable amount of factories that are opening up all over the country, many of which are car factories and car plants. We have manufacturing plants opening up at levels that nobody's ever seen before because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, you wouldn't have them opening, although they were very happy with the November 5th election. But we have, from Canada they're coming, from Mexico they're coming, from Germany, from Japan, from all over Europe, and from Japan, other places, and from China. They're opening up car factories, car manufacturing plants at levels that we've never seen before. So I'm going to Detroit because they're going to be opening up plants in Detroit or redoing plants, but they're really ripping down old plants and building new.
Are you tired of getting lowball cash offers on your property? When I buy your property,
we're the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. I mean, think of it. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country, and now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world.
So, President, the House passed a 3-year extension of the ACA. It's in the Senate. If it passes the Senate, would you veto it or allow it to be?
I might, yeah.
Sir, do you have any information about the suspicious object that was found at Palm Beach International Airport before takeoff?
I know nothing about it.
Okay, and back on Iran, the Ayatollah said that he thinks that the protesters are trying to, quote, please you. Do you see it that way? What's your message to the Iranian people
I
right
don't
now?
know that they're trying to please me. They named a boulevard after me, but that's pretty pleasing. But I don't think they're trying to please me. I think they just want peace. They want to have freedom. The protesters are after freedom. Iran has not allowed freedom for a long time. And the protesters, I don't think they're trying to appease me. They're trying to get somebody to help them. They're under siege. And now it looks like they're being shot, which is a very bad thing.
Is the administration in contact with Iranian opposition leaders as this is unfolding?
Yeah.
What's the message to them?
You're going to find out pretty soon.
You said that help is up.
Yeah, go ahead. With the beautiful red hair. I've seen pieces of it. It's incredible, I tell you. I think it's going to do, she did a book, and the book was a big #1 bestseller, and this is a movie, and it seems to be captivating a lot of people's attention. It's very good. Because here we go again. Yeah, it's going to be doing the premiere at the Trump Kennedy Center. It'll be very exciting. It's a very hard ticket, I can tell you. Everybody, Wayne Gretzky and his wife Janet, beautiful wife, great wife. He said last night, gee, I want to go to everybody wants tickets to the premiere. I think it's going to be great.
Is there any timing on the mortgage bond purchases you announced last week?
On the what? Mortgage?
Mortgage bond purchases by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac?
No, they're already doing it. They've started. Yeah, they started the process. And it's having a great impact. Interest rates are falling very rapidly. Not only for that reason, for other reasons too, but interest rates are falling very rapidly. With no help from the Fed, because we have a total stiff in the Fed.
The announcement on the cap on credit card interest rates coming out on Friday. What happens if the credit card companies don't comply by the January date?
Well, then they're in violation of the law. Very severe things. No, I want a cap on credit card interest rates because some of them are 28, almost 30%, and that people don't know they're paying 30%. people out there, they're working, and they have no idea that they're paying 30%. No way. We're putting a 1-year cap at 10%, and that's it. They know it. They've really abused the public. The credit card companies have totally abused it. I'm not going to let it happen.
So you said something willingness from Iran to engage diplomatically with you, or perhaps negotiate on nuclear program.
With Iran?
Yeah, do you think they want to engage diplomatically with you?
They do. They called.
They called you? Is it still
yesterday.
an option? Is it still an option?
Iran called to negotiate.
Yesterday.
The leaders of Iran called. They want to negotiate. I think they're tired of being beat up by the United States.
Can you share any detail on that call?
Iran wants to negotiate, yes.
Negotiate what?
We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up. But we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called. They want to negotiate. Thank you very much, everybody.
What are you going to do?
Be careful. A lot of bumps.
What's your plan for East Potomac? Are you going to renovate the golf course?
Yeah, we're going to make it a...
Well, there you have it. President Trump goes on record to say that Iran called and that they want to make a deal. But we'll see about that because Iran can be a bit stubborn. Anyone who knows that about them knows that they have a history of being stubborn with the United States. So let me go to the next clip, guys. 1 second.
Do these gummies actually work? We have our suspicions.
It's our real life CX team. Y'all got a sec to answer some real life questions?
Finally, we got one of our own in here. We're going to be able to... I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January.
All right, guys. Shout out to Keith Edwards, channel favorite. We react to Keith often on the channel. Let's listen to what he has to say about Dan Bongino, who recently, I think he already exited the FBI. If he didn't, it will be shortly here, who blocked Keith off of social media.
All those who defend her American flag. That is Dan Bongino, who quit his job at the FBI after 10 months. This man went from podcaster to FBI deputy director, and 10 months without a podcast mic was just too long for him. Dan Bongino could not handle having a real job. He also could not handle the commentary he's getting on the internet. He actually, in fact, blocked me. Because of something I posted. I'll show you that in just a moment. Dan Bongino, I just wanted to keep in mind, I don't know what you do for a living. I am very grateful to have this job.
I don't know if it was 10 months without a mic or if it was everything that he saw in the FBI. But I do know that he saw a lot. And based on everything that he saw, he exited. And a lot of people were saying, what the hell did Dan see that made him leave? Well, let's see if Keith talks about it a little bit more.
It is a blessing to do this for a living. I take it very seriously. But I had very hard jobs before I had this. I worked at Walmart. I've been a receptionist at a hair salon. I worked nights at a restaurant as a host for New York City, in New York City called Cafeteria, where I worked from 12 to 7 at night for $13 an hour. I've had hard jobs, okay? Dan Bongino, I don't think ever has had a real job because here he is complaining about the fact that he has to go to work.
I gave up everything for this. I mean, my wife is struggling and everything. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share our offices are linked. He turns...
Oh my God. Cash Patel is there all day, the horror, all day at work?
He's there he gets in like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these 4 walls all day in D.C., by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated divorce.
Slip aside. I mean, imagine going on Fox and Friends and saying that your job is hard because you're you're not at home. You're surrounded by terrible furniture.
And it's hard. I mean, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straight out at the FBI, you're moving buildings, there's a lot of change.
going to do good work because everyone was super excited. MAGA was like, finally, we got one of our own in here. We're going to be able to finally get those Epstein files out. And well, that never happened. The Epstein files never came out. And actually, only 1% of them came out. And we are 22 days past when the Epstein files were supposed to be released. And I guess that's just not happening. We're just breaking the law now. And Dan Bongino is back on the podcast, Mike. And unfortunately for him, his viewers are not so happy. And here is what they've been saying. One person said, I would have had more respect for you if you would have just disappeared with your tail between your legs, but you got the nerve to come on here. Still, it's sickening. Only the dumbest of the dumb are still going to follow you. The sheep, someone else said, Dan is a clown. And another said, Dan, nothing to see here, Bongina. You're a disgrace.
Wow, that name is disrespectful. But I think it's just hilarious, though, because I don't know if it was 10 months without a mic, like I said, but I know Dan Bongino. I remember on the live stream a couple of times talking to a few people and saying, like, man, what did Dan see that he was so upset that he decided to leave? I think he saw a lot. I think the lack of transparency, like, I'm not saying he was always the most transparent person, but sometimes people get put in to positions that give them a different level of conviction, and he might have experienced that, right, as deputy FBI director, and he might have wanted to release the Epstein files for what they were and for what he saw, and because people weren't willing to do it, he probably was a little disgusted by it, and he probably was like, okay, you know, at this point I can go back. Now, I can admit, I didn't see that clip where he was talking about, like, his wife struggling and, like, you know, like he said, separated but not separated, divorced. So I guess he's talking about the distance there, which that was interesting. But I just thought it was very interesting at how much he was saying his family was suffering from this. So that probably also aided into a big reason as to him, like, stepping down from this position or leaving.
You should be ashamed, you puppet. Another viewer wrote, just came for the comments, lol. I mean, I'm always here for the comments. Always here for the comments. One other person said, I wish Dan had taken the FBI job, totally destroyed him, and fucks his credibility. I believed he would make a difference. The BS that was coming from him in that job was disgusting, and mass betrayal to his MAGA base. I'm horrified and disgusted. Oh, man, well, in response to all that, Dan Bongino said this.
Then just don't watch. The show is, it's okay. Like, this is a constitutional republic. You're not obligated to listen to my show. Justin, what was the line on the air with Jim? It's not a freaking airport, man. You don't have to announce your departure. Like, you get these black pillars. The thing about black pillars, where everything sucks all the time, is that, well, we're demanding accountability, but you're not great, so am I. That's how you're endlessly complaining about things you don't know anything about. Like, that's all you do. Like, he'll shut down the border, 10 people across the month. Why wasn't it 0? Okay, well, can you just acknowledge going from 1 million to 10 is a big deal? That way, and there's a cost to that. And the cost you see is in, polling numbers around the midterms. You can't let this negative vibe constantly set in. That doesn't mean healthy debates about policy are not welcome. Hey, I'm not a big tariff guy. I've said that 1,000 times. Debating policies are fine. Debating policies are fine. I think a lot of the so-called damage from the tariffs was dramatically over-exaggerated. Even people who don't like them have to acknowledge that now. The economy's motoring, 4% growth. But the black pill complaining and whining all the time about the administration, it's just like, man, what team are you on?
I don't know, but whatever side they're on, if they're on the side of making fun of you, can't be so bad. No, they're actually pretty good.
I mean, in Dan Bongino's defense, he's not the first person I've really heard complain about the black pill and how annoying they are, where just nothing seems to be good enough. Like, every single thing is a complaint, right? He has a point here when he says that, he's like, when is it good enough? What side are you on? And it can kind of seem like that with black pill. Like, I've definitely heard this, seen this rhetoric out there. Watched a couple of things by, I guess you could say, people who subscribe to something like that. And it can be defeating. It can also be quite annoying at times.
Awful people, but it's good that they're making fun of Dan Bongino. Now, I have to say that I actually tweeted at him. I said, at Dan Bongino, is this real? Now, I have to say that I actually tweeted at him. I said, at Dan Bongino, is this real? Could be real. I don't see a watermark.
Now, in response to that, I got blocked by Dan Bongino. That's how he's taking the criticism. He is just literally blocked.
Dude, that's hilarious. He said something like that. He posted Titanic, right? With Jack and Rose. Oh man, I'm cooked. That's crazy.
Blocking everyone. If you just look up Dan Bongino blocked on X, you will see that he's just wearing that button out. The block button is getting a lot of use on his end. Someone said the Dan Bongino crash out is hard to watch. Is he okay? He's not okay. Why I know that is because he did this. This was the deputy director of the FBI.
Can I smell? What? All right. No, you smell amazing. No, you get $100. Every person that I find wearing Carbe gets $100.
This is karate, man. Double leg. The jump kick. The side kick. The roundhouse. The tie kick. Buddy.
I don't know in what context would make sense for someone to do that. Can you imagine if I did that?
This is karate, man. Double leg.
That's kind of fun. I can see why he was doing it now. Maybe that's why he was doing it. Oh, man. Man, the internet is undefeated. The internet is oh, God. Doing it. Oh, man. Man, the internet is undefeated. The internet is oh, God. Oh, no. Brokeback.
Dude, the Brokeback Mountain one is really crazy. Like, this is out of control right now. Like,
Mountain with Dan Bongino.
We watched you lie through your teeth. Look, he said, I've seen the files. He killed himself. I just want you to think about this, okay? Dan Bongino, after talking about this all the time, and you saw him right there in the clip saying, don't let up. Don't let up on the Epstein thing. We got to keep talking about this. None of this makes sense. What you didn't see there is he even went as far as one time on the Tim Pool show. He said, I have it on good authority that Jeffrey Epstein worked for Middle Eastern intelligence. Could be any of those Middle Eastern countries, of course. But so he said all that. Then he goes in there. He says, I've seen the files. He killed himself. That was approximately 2 months before the official position of the administration was that the files don't exist. So he said he's seen the files and he's killed himself. And by the way, as you in the eye, and made up a big fat fucking lie that you don't know. And you know it. You know you did that.
I mean, now, of course, people are going to be more curious than they've ever been before, because if he's not there anymore, now the question is going to be, well, why not tell us? Like, what is there to hold back? Now you can be as transparent as you've ever wanted to be, and you don't have to hold anything in. So tell us, Dan, like, what is it that you saw?
So now you think you're going to be the one to come back into this, the podcasting game, and you're going to be policing this space? The black pillars?
Hey, Smith, you libertarian black pillar clown. Your family must be thrilled their last name's Smith. I can smell the copium from here. Now go get your shine box like I told you. Lesson over.
I was leaving with this. Dan Bongino accomplished nothing. Nothing but it was entertaining. Well, to you, Dan Bongino, I say, unblocking coward.
If you're watching this right now, I hope, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears,
we can only see that there's a light lit, and that's the garage.
She tried to report her neighbor. Guys, this one's pretty funny. We're gonna start off the day.
All right, guys, shout out to Young Don. Last clip of the live stream, he is reacting to a racist Karen finding out their neighbor, I believe, is legal, actually. So shout out to Young Don. He usually reacts to great clips, great content. Been watching him for some time. Shout out to you, Don. Let's take a listen.
with some humor here. I'll let him introduce the concept of this video. It's pretty fucked up, man, and funny, but sad.
I made a website for reporting illegal immigrants, and sometimes people end up on the website thinking that it's real. And somebody wanted to report a man that they suspected to be an illegal immigrant that lives in their neighborhood. So I reached out to see if I could help.
There is one person who comes, and he's non-speaking. He's not English speaking, and he will come possibly. Maybe you'll see him 2 weekends out of the month, and it's not even for a complete weekend. He'll come Saturday like a thief in the night at 10:30, 11:30.
Thief in the night. Okay.
At night, and then leave Sunday, and he's gone.
Okay.
It's just very, very suspicious. While he is here, when he pulls into the driveway.
Yeah.
And the lights always on.
They're using electricity in the home.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and that is definitely suspicious.
Yes.
Very suspicious.
And they're also using the driveway.
Right, and the light is always lit in the garage. When he comes, the light stays on. We cannot see the basement section from our kitchen window. We can only see that there's a light lit, and that's the garage window that we can see the light lit.
Yeah.
So
just not being able to see what the resident is doing inside their own home, that's what raises the suspicions.
Of course.
Exactly.
Is he able to see you in your home?
He can't look in our windows again.
So he wouldn't know. He wouldn't know what you are doing in your home.
No.
From his home, which could actually make you to him suspicious.
Well, we don't hide from him.
Wait, so he's hiding from you because you can't see him and what he's doing inside his home, but you're not hiding from him even though he can't see you inside your home.
From his home, which...
Bro, this whole story seems crazy. Like, the way she's telling this story, she seems freaked out by this dude, and it seems crazy at the same time.
Could actually make you as
the light lit, and that's the garage window that we can see the light lit.
Yeah. So just not being able to see what the resident is doing inside their own home, that's what raises the suspicions.
Of course.
Exactly.
Is he able to see you in your home?
He can't look in our windows again.
So he wouldn't know. He wouldn't know what you are doing in your home.
No.
From his home, which could actually make you to him suspicious.
Well, we don't hide from him.
Wait, so he's hiding from you because you can't see him and what he's doing inside his home. But you're not hiding from him even though he can't see you inside your home. Something is wrong with these people. They have a mental illness.
Speak to us, he ignores us. So when he comes and he sees us, he totally ignores us.
Okay.
He goes right inside.
Do you have a need to feel seen?
No.
Bro, that's the thing with these. I don't even know how to play with these white people, man, because you ignore them, they got a problem. You try to talk to them, they got a problem. They're awkward. They're nervous. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the fuck you want, man?
Not necessarily.
But by him, you have a need to feel seen by him, though.
Yes. Sometimes he will bring packages.
Ooh.
And he will leave with different packages.
Oh, no.
He will leave with something else.
Do you use Amazon yourself?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you've had different packages as well. Okay. So he may deem that as, once again, he might look at you, says, I don't know what you're doing in your home. She's got different packages. She is actually suspicious.
Well, he actually doesn't see our packages unless he sees them, unless he drives by the front of our home.
So you can actually see more of what he's doing than he can see what you're doing.
We're not nosy. We're not
just starting to catch on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now she's starting to catch on to what the guy's trying to do to her, because now she's like, we're not nosy. Like,
as what you sound like. What has he done? That's the real question. Right? Think about what it must take for you to call the federal agency, a federal agency to report your neighbor. What offense has he done? You see, it'd be one thing if she had an axe to grind with him, like he was rude, he was a nuisance, he was doing real suspicious shit, you know, going through other people's yards and shit like that. Her complaints are, I only see him like every other weekend for like a couple of days. He leaves the light on in his garage. I can't see what he's doing inside his home. He doesn't really try to speak to us. She's like, he needs to be deported. All of this together means he must be deported.
Bro, that's crazy work. Like, the way that Don just broke that down, but then when he's like, all of this means that he needs to be deported, it's like, bro, that's crazy. Sound effects are on point, though.
To go around the property, around the circumference or the diameter of the place and take a look at what's going on. We have never done that.
You would never do that. You would, however, report them to authorities to do that.
Well, if I feel something is suspicious going on, yes. Why would anyone in Florida buy a property and not live in it? Not rent it out? That's suspicious in itself. We heard a very, very loud noise one night. My boyfriend we heard a very loud bang or smash or, whatever it was that he heard. And he didn't know what that was. First thing he thought of was, gee, I hope they're not running a meth lab.
Wow, when she hears a loud noise and instantly she's like, he must be fucking running a meth lab. You know, she doesn't see, typically when people are running a meth lab or just any kind of